Today's sponsor is Loot Crate. For less than $20 a month, Loot Crate gives the geek in you a special treat every month. Loot Crate's a subscription box service with $40 worth of geek, gamer, and pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, comics, etc. delivered to your mailbox every month. This month, they're bringing you a fight for the ages. Suit up, choose your allies, and enter the arena for combat. They're ready to stand their ground this month with exclusive items from Blizzard, Fallout 4, Capcom, sponsor-worthy loot from the Hunger Games, as well as a few more items that will help their winners emerge victorious. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when that cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/KFGames and enter code KFGames to save $3 on your new subscription today. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 43 of the Kinda Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Hello.
Portillo's here,
As
chewing
always.
on some things.
You got a new owl he likes a lot.
This is good. This is the reuniting the Avengers for the first time in a while. It feels like, even though it was
It's been a
probably
week,
just
right?
yeah.
I mean, I wasn't
It's
here.
been a long
I guess
week.
2 weeks since we sat down to
The
do
most
Gamescast, all of us.
famous Avengers of all. I'm Mysterio.
Uh-huh.
Your Omega Red.
Oh.
And Portillo's the Flash.
He's just so fast.
Is he Professor Xavier?
Well, Professor Xavier isn't in the Avengers.
I apologize. That was
Yeah,
stupid.
don't be
that was a
stupid,
mistake on my
Greg.
part. Sorry, everybody.
Who am I then?
More of a DC guy.
Tim is Spawn.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I like
That's
that.
a good one. You look like
I'm
him.
very Spawn-like.
Yeah.
And
Your hair's doing a thing that you might want to know about. I don't know.
Did
he
it
likes
look
'cause
good?
It's like Superman.
Did it look good?
It looked like something. So this is a show where we talk about video games every week, and it's a beautiful thing. All you beautiful people join us, and we have a beautiful hour-ish conversation about stuff. So that's great. If you want to get it early, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. And something that we don't talk about enough is the fact that if you go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, you can get a bonus episode every month.
We just
for
put up the
$1.
October one.
Yeah. So you should check that out. Me and Colin did a little one-on-one time, and it was good, and it was just as sexy as it sounds.
Important thing to point out about those exclusive episodes. It's $1 and up, and then if you give the $1 for the month or whatever, you get all the other exclusive episodes that have ever come.
So if you want to be super sneaky, you could just go in 1 month, pay the $1, download all the old ones, and then never pay again. I'm just saying.
Well, then you want to get it going forward, but yeah.
Well, yeah, you get all of them going back. I'm just saying, if you
I
wanted
think that's
to,
that sneaky. I think that's just the business model.
It's the working game in the system. I can appreciate that. I hope you don't do that, but if you want to do that,
but
then
if you feel the need, I want people to listen to this shit. So
Yeah.
I feel like they should do whatever
what
you
you
need
gotta
to do.
it's your life.
Is what we're saying.
It's my life.
If you don't want to pay, that's cool. You can just go to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, broken up topic by topic, Monday through Thursday, full episode Friday. You guys know the drill by now. Also, there's this other show you should go check out, PS I Love You, XOXO. It's a PlayStation-centric podcast hosted by the coolest dudes in video games. It's very good. You guys are liking it a lot. Both of those shows and Game Over Greggy's show, you should go to itunes.com/kindoffunny, rate them all, review them all, love them all. The reason I brought up PlayStation, PS I Love You, XOXO.
I do it all the time. It's hard.
Yeah,
We're still learning.
exactly.
6 episodes in, now you're allowed to do that.
The reason I bring that up is the first topic of the day is the PlayStation conference at
Paris Games Week.
Paris Games Week.
Sure.
Now, there was a bit of hubbub of should we talk about it in the show or should we not?
Right.
Because you guys have already covered it, and people, when we first announced PS I Love You, was like, oh, there's going to be so much redundancies and stuff. Gamescast is a show about video games. So
Right.
for us to not talk about PlayStation is silly. And also, I want to talk about stuff. And this show's going to be a bit more about the broad, stuff. Not so much the nitty-gritty details.
Okay.
So this topic, we'll talk for 15, 20 minutes. Who knows? Kind of just giving a wrap-up for the people.
I'm super interested to know what do you think?
There's a couple, I have some thoughts.
Okay.
Greg, I do have some thoughts. I have a list of all the stuff that
he's got lists.
they announced. Yeah, Tim Gettys has a list. Who is surprised?
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. But try not to be too upset if you are
They'll be fine.
getting some
No, you'll
redundancies.
be fine. And frankly, I was vehemently against us not doing this on this show because I think that this show needs to be treated as it's going to normally be treated regardless of what we talk about on PS I Love You XL, because there's not necessarily going to be crossover between those shows. There's definitely people that listen to that show that don't listen to the show, and I'm sure that there's people that listen to the show that don't listen to that show. So
I mean, the comments say that. So it's like there is people that listen to very specific things. So
it's all
we're
good.
going to start this off with PlayStation Conference Paris Games Week. Star Wars Battlefront, we get a new character trailer.
Yeah.
So we got to see a little bit of that. Boba Fett. We got to see some Han Solo.
He made a little joke when he went over the
I like
Sarlacc
that.
pit.
I liked that a lot. What
No
did you guys
sign.
think about that?
No sign yet of Watto.
Yeah, there's no Watto. There was no midichlorians.
Right. Well, no, they're there. They're in
They're just
they're in
there.
everything.
Yeah. They're within
Yeah.
within us all.
That's
Not
just
us
there.
all. Just the Jedi.
Now, see, I still argue that they're inside of everyone, but it's the Jedi's have a high
higher
midichlorian
count.
count.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
the
even
deal.
remember.
I think that is the case.
Oh,
Star Wars
Well,
expert Greg Miller.
yeah, exactly.
I also like Data. I didn't see Data in that trailer.
God damn it. You're so fucking much. But that trailer got me hyped.
Trailer was great.
Yeah.
No, I've been talking about it for a while that I didn't play the beta, but I watched Nick and Colin play the beta.
Mhm.
And I was like, this looks like something I wouldn't mind jumping into and fucking around with. And that trailer, I was like, yeah, that does sound like seem like fun.
That trailer, again, though, reminded me of the same shit that Colin always talks about, where I'm like, man, I wish there was a campaign for this. Like, I want to play this. I want an experience out of this. And I'm not an online multiplayer shooter guy, so I'm like, ugh, damn it. Will I jump in and play it a little bit? Probably not.
Really?
Yeah,
Not
like
at
that's
all?
the thing is, it's just like, I'm not good at that shit. Like, I'm just not good. So
Yeah,
that
but
makes it not fun.
Yeah, I hear you. Like last night, right now, we've talked about this in our personal times. Colin and I, not you. The fact that we're in a holding pattern for Fallout 4, and the fact that nothing is Fallout 4 makes you want to play nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
that's where I'm at right now.
last night, I had a couple hours of downtime, and I was like, I should play something. I went, I need to chip away at the Metal Gear Platinum, but I don't feel like doing that right now. And this Tales of the Borderlands, I want to finish, but not right now. And I was like, you know what? I'm still waiting on Christine was doing work, and we were gonna watch a movie. But I'm like, I'm still waiting on her to play co-op Halo. But that won't stop me. I can play multiplayer Halo. So I jumped in and did one match of that. In the beginning was just me getting my teeth kicked in for sure. But then I turned that corner where I'm like, all right, I'm getting a little bit of a feel for it. And it was like, all right, this is what Battlefront could be. I don't need to play a million hours of Battlefront, but man, I have an hour to kill. Why not do that?
Yeah. I mean, if you can put in like 10 hours, you do kind of cross that hump. You know what I mean? Of like, you start being good. Not amazing, but good.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if I'd want to do that to something that, at least, I don't want to like speak badly about the game. It's just like the repetitiveness of just like deathmatch over and over, or you know, whatever, like objective
Capture the flag and all
type
this,
things.
yeah,
It's just like, it's not my cup of tea, but man, it's beautiful. Like looking at the game, like, goddamn. And we
That's
know
why-
we're going to get a good one day, a single player.
Yeah, hopefully BioWare will do it again. But no, that's the thing of I'd love to get in there and just fool around for a while. You know, don't worry, Tim. Don't stress out. You don't have to get in there and be an
I'm pretty
expert.
stressed.
You and I
pretty
can just run around and play
Yeah.
and have fun.
I have fun with that, but then all the people on the internet get mad at me, like, "Oh, you're not good."
Well, you're gonna get your single player Star Wars from Visceral.
Yeah, and that's gonna be fucking
But I
awesome.
want another.
I hope so.
I want another Knights of the Old Republic.
That'd be cool too.
I wouldn't count on that.
I know, but I want it. That's all I'm saying. I know Amy's gonna deliver.
But anyway, the trailer was awesome. I really liked it. I
Yeah.
liked the cut of it was really good. Seeing Boba Fett and seeing Han Solo and all that stuff, fucking awesome. I think it was good that they included that in the conference, just because it kind of like got people hyped.
Yeah, and
shit.
they stacked other third party stuff in the beginning. Call of Duty was even before Battlefront, and they
No one's talking about that.
yeah, and they it was interesting that they did that because they usually don't, and that's usually frustrating. They usually will lead with something interesting for first party or something dynamic for third party, and then they'll go into like the smaller stuff and stats and all that kind of stuff after the CEO speech, and then at the end they'll do like Assassin's Creed or a Ubisoft game or an EA game, and then they'll do like the big first party game. And I like how they just got rid of all of the because frankly people that are watching the PlayStation press conference really don't care about the third party games.
Yeah, there was a definitive moment in there where it turned. You're like, oh, okay, here's where I'm gonna pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. Like we care about them, we play them, but we at press conferences we do not care.
Yeah,
we
press
watch
conferences, it's
Ubisoft's
about
press
the
conference for
announcements.
Ubisoft's games. We watch EA's press conference for EA's games. We do not care. I would love to see a press conference one day with nothing but first party games, but that's not. They have to massage
They
the
just have to do that
partnerships.
stuff. Yeah. First party stuff. We saw Ratchet and Clank. We saw a little bit more of that with a trailer. And
No, you're
stuff.
super excited
Looks
for that.
I am.
fantastic.
Yes. I mean, that game looks amazing. I love the Ratchet series. I was a bigger fan of the PS3 series as opposed to the PS2, and I still love
Really?
the PS2 ones. Yeah.
I mean, those are better games. They were. I mean, Cracking
Tools,
Time
of,
was.
Tools of Destruction and Crack of Time.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cracking Time is the only one I think that was really like super critically acclaimed, right?
Tools of Destruction people liked.
People liked it, but I think
Okay, let me make this clear. I liked Tools of Destruction. I liked Quest for Booty, which is this.
Yeah,
the download deal.
Yeah,
And then
that's surprising to me.
I
I mean,
liked Cracking
Cracking
Time.
Time.
All the other ones, not.
Yeah, no one's
But
talking
those
about
don't
all
count.
for one.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
We
yeah.
understand. We understand.
But I mean, at
Please.
least on the PS2 era, like they were all great. I loved the first one. Then the second and third, they were great, but I was just like, all right, this is just. I needed a break, I think, and then so when they came back, I liked them. But then when it got to like Deadlocked and stuff, I was like, it's a little overkill.
Gotcha.
But
I
I'm
always feel like-
excited for this to come back, and the fact that it is kind of like a reboot, reimagining, whatever, and it's like a movie tie-in, but not really. Like it's whatever. People forever have been saying these games look like Pixar movies. This game looks like a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
It's actually finally at that point. when you see it, you're like, damn, that's gameplay. Holy shit. And I love that we're still seeing that, having that moment with video games. Cause for a while it was just like, all right, we're close, but we're never going to be closer than this,
I hear you. My problem with it is I feel like I've been talking about it forever. This and this fucking movie.
Yeah.
They announced the movie forever ago, talked about the game forever ago, and we're still not the game's not out this year.
Yeah. It is weird. And I think it's pretty obvious. It's because of the movie,
Sure. Oh, yeah.
The game I'm pretty sure would be done this year. We recently got a movie trailer too, like a couple weeks ago, and it looks good. It's definitely not like the trailer looks like here's a funny kid movie.
Yeah.
But Ratchet and Clank, I've always liked it for its writing and I think it's funny and
what up,
clever
TJ Fixman?
And all that shit. But it's good in the same way a Pixar movie's good, where it's kiddie, but it's also adults
There's
can
something
enjoy
for
it
adults can get out of it
and stuff. So I'm excited to see the movie, and I'm excited to play the game, and especially the game because it looks amazing. And I haven't had a Ratchet in my life for long enough.
Right.
I think we're back. It's time for another.
I always give them shit and say Insomniac, I wish they move away from Ratchet, take a page of this. Ratchet's been into the ground. Da da da. I personally haven't played a Ratchet game in a while, so I'm like, yeah, I'll just kick the tires on it and see if it hooks me in or not. But
and Into the Nexus was, I think, a testing ground for that. With it going back to the classic formula, it was not really a full game, but it was, it existed, and it's a game that was on PS3 and people enjoyed it, and trophies came out for Vita, but I don't think they reported it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's time to go back. I think the game's probably gonna be great. I mean, the core Ratchet games are all great.
Yep.
That's why I was surprised is that people really love the PS2 trilogy, and they like Crack in Time. But I think those are the games for a lot of people. That's why I'm excited. Like I love the first Ratchet and Clank. I think that was unlike anything I'd ever played before. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. It's not a game I'm gonna lose any sleep over until it's here. But
I mean, it's definitely one of those things where I'm gonna play this. Like, it's one of the games I'm gonna play for sure. And I'm excited for, because there's not too many games that I do that for.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for, but yeah, I don't need it right now. Like I don't need it this year. So waiting a couple more months, I'm fine with that. But to me, that's the type of gameplay I like. I like platformers, and I like just kind of fun arcadey shooting and stuff, and wacky comical things. And that
Captain
is
Quark.
Ratchet, like all the weapons and stuff. It's like,
yeah, that's Insomniac's thing, is weird weapons. So
Yeah.
What's the guy we love so much, Mr. What's his name?
oh, the
I've done this a couple times on different shows.
yeah, I don't remember. I know what you're talking about, but
I'm gonna look him up.
yeah, I don't even know what you're talking
it's a weapon.
about. Oh, gotcha. Damn it, I don't remember either.
I'm hooked. I got Groovatron shoved in there, and that's not
It's
it.
not
That's the disco
Groovatron,
ball you
yeah.
toss up, obviously. Mr. Somebody.
Anyways, moving on, we got some fighting game stuff. Street Fighter V release date and a Dulcim announcement.
Very much sooner than I thought. I thought Street Fighter V might not even have been until like the summer or the fall. So
We're getting it February 16th.
yeah, it's very soon.
PS4 and PC. And then they also announced that there's going to be like 6 DLC characters next year. And they're talking more about how this game is going to be like a platform for Street Fighter instead of like having Super Street Fighter and all that other stuff, which I think is great. They're making a really good call with all that. And then there's one more character to be announced probably at PSX. People are excited about Street Fighter. It's cool.
Yeah, I think I think you glazed over what was most significant about the announcement, which was, other than the release date, which was that the 6 DLC characters will be free if you
use the in-game
currency. So I thought that was a really interesting move, because they're basically saying, as Greg and I talked about on PS I Love You, is that they will certainly be available to buy. You have to imagine, but you can use this in-game currency that you can earn. Like anyone can earn the currency, and you can just spend it on the characters and get them for free, which I think is cool. So the roster will be 20, but it'll be 26 by February 2017. So
Yeah.
I think that's the cast is not as big as I thought it would be, but that's big enough. And I like that. There's just as a I'm a very passive Street Fighter fan these days, but I love the series and I love characters and stuff. I was really excited to see Dhalsim, especially because he's like old and he has a beard and stuff. I think it's like really a cool evolution as opposed to what they did to Ken, where they kind of fucked up Ken.
I love how you say that just based on his hair.
Yeah, well, no, and just everything's different. Is you can give him different outfits, and he just doesn't look like Ken at all. Like that's not like doesn't.
People
he's,
change.
He's a blonde white. He's a blonde white guy in a red kimono. It's supposed to be
They
Ken.
got rid of Ryu and replaced him with Nick. That's weird.
I do like how there's a lot of new characters and a lot of weird characters that they brought back. Like I thought it was cool to bring Birdie in, and this new Laura character is pretty cool. So I am interested to see what the final character is. I assume it's got to be an existing character, like Guile or something. Yeah, because there's just too many. I feel like, in my opinion, as just a passive Street Fighter fan, I know people like our friend Vince at IGN would be excited about testing new characters and figuring them out. I do feel like it seems to be quite a few weird characters from the past or new characters, and not enough
OG homies.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was Street Fighter 4 though, and I think that they're trying to do something at least a little bit different initially. Like we can suspect that within 3 years, all the characters are going to be playable again, because especially, at least when I say all, I'm talking about the Street Fighter
core.
2 cast, even with all the extra 8 extras.
It would be cool to see Charlie instead of Guile, actually, but I like Charlie actually more than Guile. But
Isn't Charlie in it in 5?
I don't know. Oh no, you're right. He is in it.
I think
that's
he was like one of the first ones announced. That's why I don't.
That's
think
why Guile wouldn't be in
is
it. No,
not
you're
gonna
absolutely
be
right.
it.
You're absolutely right. That's true. No, I was like, I don't think he is, but then I'm like, but I saw a guy doing like flash kicks and stuff like that.
I'm pretty sure he was one of the first.
No, so you're absolutely
to be
right. He is in it. So yeah, and I guess that does solve the American Air Force dude bro contingent.
Mm-hmm.
The random characters I've always really loved in Street Fighter. I've always loved like really quirky. I like Dan just because he's making fun of everyone, which I think is cool. I love his like super in Alpha 3. Like you use all of your energy and it's just he's like and it's just like it's just a fireball, doesn't go anywhere. Like I think that's like he's just a funny character. I always liked Cody, although Cody's really not a Street Fighter character. I think Cody's like a Final Fight character.
Yeah.
But I loved in Alpha 3. I think it was Alpha 3, might have been Alpha 2. Just he had a knife and then you can like drop it and pick it up and do more damage and he's like handcuffed. I just like the idea of like a prisoner that's like handcuffed.
And has to fight.
Yeah, and he's still fighting or whatever. I always liked Relento. I thought he was over the top. But he got a lot of play, I think, in 4. In 4. So yeah, there's ways they can go. It'd be T-Hawk or DJ and these like Cammy, like those characters. Cammy's in it.
Yeah.
They don't seem to touch too much. Cammy's out of those 4 characters that were introduced in Super Street Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Don't seem to get as much play as Cammy does, so I don't know if you want to go in that direction. I like Rose. I think there's a lot of interesting characters. I wish the roster was a little bit bigger, but again, it's not a game I'm really gonna mess around with. I just like watching people play it, and I like just reading about it and stuff like that. That's one of
I
those
have a
games.
feeling it's gonna be a new character that was introduced in 4 that comes back, but I don't know.
Oh, with the what is the Rufus would be an interesting, the fat guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know who's in the roster like for sure right now. I know there's like 15 announced, but see Viper. I don't know if she
Crimson Viper
is back yet or not.
Yeah, I don't know. She was
But if
cool.
not,
She
I
was
think
fucking awesome.
She could be
She was a really cool character.
likely.
Mr. Zircon is who we were looking for.
Zircon. Mr.
Yeah.
Zircon.
Mr. Zircon does not approve.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell he used to say when he killed people. He was awesome.
And then more fighting game news. Tekken 7 coming to PS4, announced by Bandai Namco. Not exclusive, but they didn't mention the other
course.
stuff.
I think it's coming to PS4 first, maybe. I don't know. That whole part of the presentation was a little awkward and weird and very.
Yeah, the transition in between Street Fighter to them when they're like, we're gonna announce the last character, the 17th character, 16th character, whatever. And it's the guy who does Tekken. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because Yoshinori Ono is
The Yoshi.
a fucking legend.
Mhm.
Like, just absolutely legendary. I've been to so many weird conferences with him. I remember going to a Darkstalkers panel where he was like, made everyone hold up a $1 bill so that he can take a picture so that he can prove to Capcom that people wanted Darkstalkers, and then they released
For
Darkstalkers
$1.
and no one wanted it. So that was kind of the joke was on him, I guess. But he's just a legend. He's just a legend.
He's a funny dude.
So it was and what's the Tekken guy? Hamada, I think. Hamada-san. Different, more buttoned up kind of guy, but the transition between them was weird, and I thought it was interesting that when he came out, I was like, oh, they're gonna finally talk about Tekken versus
cross
Street
Street
Fighter
Fighter.
or whatever,
Yeah.
or cross Street Fighter, like, which is just.
Well, I think they eventually did cancel that.
I don't think so. I thought that they said that it was still in development.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I remember like maybe a
look it up,
year
Greg.
ago.
This is
on
why
it.
we do need phones. I was yelling at you before, but actually we need you really bad.
Yeah, it's important. Moving on from that, Gearbox's Battleborn getting beta next year, coming to PlayStation 4 first.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people like it though. Like I was watching the internet yesterday. People on Twitter, they were really into this whole beta idea for this game.
Yeah, well, on game when we had Randy on our conference our show at GameStop Expo in September, he showed us the game and it looked cool, and I understand it, and it might be a game fun to mess around with. The thing that I never got around to asking because we had such a little amount of time is that name is fucking awful. That is maybe the worst video game name I've ever heard in my entire life.
Battleborn?
Yeah,
I don't know about
Battleborn. That's the name of the game. All right. Like I just, it's such a disappointing name. It's like when I used to talk about Spec Ops: The Line, which is one of my favorite games on PS3. It would have been so much cooler if it was just called The Line. You know, Battleborn. I was like, this is such an uninspired game, especially from the studio that gave us Borderlands. Like that Borderlands is such an awesome name. Battleborn. It's
At
so
the
genetic.
2014
generic,
San Diego
generic.
Comic-Con, Harada confirmed the game is still in development.
Oh wow.
The
Yeah, I
reason for
remember
the
reading that.
scare I'm sorry. The reason for the scarce information is due to Bandai Namco waiting for the opportunity to market it. In 2015, Harada stated development has come far along.
I remember reading that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know where.
So when that happened, I was like, oh,
Here we go.
yeah,
that was
it's
exactly
time.
Tekken 7's an exciting announcement, especially because it seems like a prequel story to Tekken fans. But when that happened, I was like, oh shit, like okay, now
That's
it's finally,
shocking to me. It's
Yeah, I
shocking
mean, I
it's
thought
still a
I'm sure
thing.
I'm not the only one that thought that.
That's crazy. And then new game announcement, Boundless. It looks like Portal, and it looks gorgeous. I want to play that.
Yeah.
That looks awesome.
I'm waiting for more information.
Yeah, I don't really have anything.
I mean,
to
just
say
the
about
little we saw, though, I was like, man,
Right.
this looks like a game that I would be really.
Well, at first when they
really
started, that's
into.
the one where I was like, No Man's Sky, and then I was like, wait, why has he got a hammer? This isn't No Man's Sky.
This is No
All right, and then we're like, is this tomorrow, children? Did something change?
Yeah,
No,
like that was the
uh,
vibe. That's all right. That's what I remember. It looks like a Minecraft. Almost looks like Minecraft.
Yeah.
Or at least it didn't look like Minecraft in the immediacy of it, but it looked
When
like
you went
when
for
you
the
looked,
first Portal.
Yeah, and then you looked around and it all seemed very intentionally blocky, and so it did remind me of the Tomorrow Children at first, which is Q Games PS4 exclusive that has just disappeared off the face of the planet. And I was like, and that's why I said to Greg, I'm like, is this the Tomorrow Children? Did they disappear to do the art differently or something like that? But it wasn't. I was surprised that the Tomorrow Children wasn't there, although I think it'll be a PSX. The game exists. I think
it's been at trade shows, right? It was playable on the E3 show floor. Was that the last one?
yeah, and they did it, and they did a public alpha.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, the alpha I think was in like. I think
Things
it
are
might.
still
Even, I think it
happening
might
over
have
there.
even still been an
It's
IGN,
popping
but
off.
I don't. But if not that, it was like early in 2015. But I actually think it was in 2014. Like I'd interviewed them last time I was in Tokyo when we were still at IGN and they were talking about the game, and I could have I could be wrong, but I thought that the insinuation was that it would have been out early to mid 2015. So but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I was just surprised that we haven't seen anything of it. It's just kind of disappeared. Sony is dumping money into that game, so I don't know.
Housemarque announces Matterfall.
Fuck yeah.
Which was crazy.
yeah.
When they came, it was Michael, right? Or Denny, right there. He comes out and he's like talking about Housemarque, the logo behind it. And he's like, they're working on Alienation, but I'm here to announce a new game. You're like, what the fuck?
I was like, yes. So the first thing is that everyone's like, was Alienation canceled? No, Alienation's coming out in March. And that comes from Housemarque, who said that's what Sony is aiming for. Sony's aiming for it. What that tells me is that the game might be done, or that they've moved on. That's a small team, so and they already have Housemarque. I don't know how much they've scaled. I reached out to my friends Mikhail and Tomoso at Housemarque, and I was talking to them via email, and I'm not sure how much they've scaled up. But what's clear to me is that they have 3 games in development. So they have Matterfall and Alienation, which is probably done, and then they have their Jarvis game still that they haven't announced. So, or they've announced, but they've not revealed yet. So Sony's deep in bed with them still. They have 2 XDev Sony exclusive games going on right now. Matterfall seems to me to Housemarque going like, we have this awesome voxel weird technology we made with Resogun. What can we do with it?
Yeah.
And to people's perception of what the game is, I think is correct, that it's going to be a side-scrolling. It's going to be exactly what they do every time, which is twin sticks. I mean, that's what they do. Alienation's a twin stick shooter. Resogun's a twin stick shooter. Super Stardust is a twin stick shooter. Dead Nation's a twin stick shooter. But Outland was not a twin stick shooter. Outland was like a very polarity based, like what was that? Ikaruga almost type side scrolling game, which was it was a fucking awesome game. Awesome game. But that was very different. So maybe this will be a side scrolling shooter in some way. But when I first saw it, the trailer, because I've never seen a trailer from Housemarque like that ever. So I don't know if they did that on House. Sony might have done it, but my instincts were at first. Well, I leaned over Greg. I'm like, they're gonna make a AAA game. Like, are they actually
the
gonna
best
make?
thing is it looks like that.
I don't think it is.
When
I
they,
don't think it
in
is.
the beginning,
Profile.
when you were behind them, yes, but then they did the thing where they swung and he was running and shooting, and I think that was the first like, this is like our proof of concept gameplay.
what
You're going to
gameplay
be
could be.
running, shooting things, blowing them up, and then be able to run
Yeah.
backwards and be wrapping around like Resogun.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it is. I think it's my what I suspect is that it is a reworked Resogun. And I don't know if it's that simple.
Sure.
But
There's more to it, I'm sure.
because Stardust is on a flat plane. Dead Nation's like top down, like almost isometric or whatever you want to call it, but really just like a
3/4.
like exactly. So you assume that Resogun is a new way for them to do a game, which is inspired really by Defender, which is where Jarvis comes in his own game. So taking place on like a loop, which I think is cool. Resogun is
It's good.
Resogun's so good.
That's a really cool look.
Same.
I'm
That was
excited
my.
to hear more.
I will say, and I'm with all sincerity, that was my biggest announcement for me. Yeah, by far.
No Man's Sky, the release date was probably the biggest announcement for a lot of other people. So we got a June
finally
release area.
June 2016,
Yeah.
not this week.
Yeah, that was
so
such a
many were worried
fucking
about.
stupid rumor. That was so obviously not going to happen. Sony would not do that to that game.
But people, they want to get excited about stuff, and they're like, "Oh, it'd be cool."
Yeah, no, well, that's that one thing. But then websites are reporting, like, our sources tell us that, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You think Sony's going to shit out No Man's Sky in the middle of October with like no warning, a week and a half or 2 weeks before Fallout comes out, 3 weeks before Battlefront comes out, Halo comes out on the other console. There's a lot of competition. Call of Duty's a week away. It's like, what are you, nuts? Like, this isn't a game you release now, and this is not a game. If you did release it now, it's a game that you like promote,
market.
Exactly.
So that was such a dumb. I mean, when I read that, I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever read before.
A June release date, though, man, doesn't sound good to me. Like I've
What are you
definitely
talking about?
Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
That's when
Really?
Yeah.
Last of Us,
The Last of Us
Batman.
came out, and Batman both came out.
Well, I know, and I mean, that worked great for them, but like, I think that this game should be a February release. Like, this should be. I think this would clean up in February. In June, I guess a lot of what I'm saying comes down to all the people that are going to be talking about this game are going to be at E3. Like,
yeah, but that happens every year, and we get our perspective shifted. That all of us go to E3 and we're like, what a dumb time to release games. But in reality, it's people at home reading about E3 going, man, I wish I had something amazing to play right now. And they're gonna be like, oh wait, fuck, that's how it's been with Last of Us, Batman. Hopefully now.
Also, it's surprising though, because this game definitely to me feels like a spring game more than a.
But there's so much in the spring now. The spring's so crowded. You know what I mean?
The spring is the new fall.
You figure Sony lays out their stuff, right? And they must have this gap there because it's Uncharted in March. Then they got, you figure, hopefully Horizon in the fall.
Yeah.
What is your summer game? Well, it's this thing we put on the Colbert Report or whatever the hell he calls the show now, and all this other stuff, that we've been talking about forever.
Yeah, I think what we're missing surprisingly is I think this tells us that PlayStation VR is going to come out in June too.
Which seems so late. You know what I mean? I could have sworn they were talking spring and stuff, and that's why PSX, I thought they'd be like, all right, it's coming out April. It's what I mean, whatever, May. But I've been making the prediction.
Well, I made the prediction.
I've been making the prediction.
Greg did make the prediction, and that's the thing is that it's all based. What I'm saying is based on conjecture because they have not confirmed that PSVR and No Man's Sky are compatible with each other, but they must be, right? You have to assume that is a huge miss if they don't do that, and I think it's obvious, and I think that's why the game might even be taking so long.
I mean, me too. That's the only reason I can think that it is coming out in June because, like I said, I do feel like it's a earlier game than that, and the VR not being ready till then does make sense.
Right.
And it gives people time. I mean, maybe VR does come out in April and the game comes out later. And I don't think it's going to be VR exclusive, obviously. So it doesn't really matter if it's coupled with VR, but it makes PSVR a more compelling thing if you have a few games of that caliber released, because I'm sure they'll have like Valkyrie and a few other things that are really great too. But yeah, No Man's Sky looks cool. I'm super skeptical about it still. I think it's healthy to be skeptical about a game like this because it's promising a great deal. And the team is so small. I do not see the congruent nature between the size of the team and the scope of the game. I don't quite know how they're doing it. And it is based on procedural math. I mean, it's the planets are being made on the fly as far, they're there, and it's just based on, a sort of algorithm that they've created. So I think that it can make it as big as you want. But what I'm curious about with No Man's Sky, as Greg and I have discussed in the past, is what will the loop be like? What will the cycle be like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is it going to be compelling for 5 hours? Is it going to be compelling for 50 or 100? Because I really feel like this game, not having really messed around with it, Greg's played it, but not having messed around with it, but just watching and reading and kind of just thinking about it, I hope it's not one of those things that gets old really quick. I hope that there's more than just
seeing things.
Because imagine what happens if you go to 10 different planets, and on the 10th planet, on the first planet, you find this certain kind of animal, right? And you
identify
and log in, all that kind of stuff. And then the 10th planet you go to 3 hours later, you have a palette swap of that same animal. And then suddenly the wonder's taken out of it. You know?
Yeah.
Like, how dynamic and big is this game really going to be? And how granular does it really get? I believe that they can deliver on it, but I am skeptical that it's going to be this fucking mind-altering game that everyone thinks it's going to be, or a lot of people think it's going to be. I'm in a wait-and-see approach, and this is one of those ones where I hope I'm dead fucking wrong. Because if it is what it sounds like it's going to be, it sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, that's the game I talk about all the time. Like, I picture sitting on that couch with the PlayStation VR on, and, an hour every night or whatever, chilling out before bed, cruising the galaxy.
The other thing, Greg, that we haven't talked about is that if they announce that PlayStation, if they say No Man's Sky is not PlayStation VR compatible. That's one of those things where we talk about what games belong in VR, what games get you excited. That would be such a major disappointment.
Right.
That would be like
Huge
one of the
miss.
first disappointments I would have had, or maybe the first VR disappointment I've had, where it's like, but you know, yeah, you don't want to put Uncharted, doesn't make any sense. It's in third person. You don't want to do it, but this is made for this. And I really just do believe that if you read between the lines,
it's obvious.
If you knock that out, then it's like, what are the pillars holding up PlayStation VR? Then it's Riggs and it's Eve Valkyrie, and it's like, those are cool. I'm not excited for those games like I'm excited for the idea of No Man's Sky. And it's this weird thing of where No Man's Sky makes me excited for PlayStation VR, and PlayStation VR makes me really excited for No Man's Sky. Like, I'm in No Man's Sky no matter what. I'm playing it. But the idea of, like, putting it on and just the chill music, and because I don't want the combat, you know, of, like, Eve Valkyrie all the time. You know what I mean? I'm going to want to play that game every so often, do cool shit with it. But just chilling out, landing on a planet, figuring out what's happening. Oh, this guy's bad. I run away. I'm terraforming it. I'm screwing stuff up, collecting shit. Like, that sounds fun and cool, and it sounds like Minecraft in VR, right? But space Minecraft, with the ability to jump around. If they can deliver on that, at least partially at launch, and then add to it as they go, awesome. But if it's just another game I'm playing, cool, I'm in, I'm going to do it, but I don't see it being as, I don't think it being the experience. You know what I mean?
Kind of just rushing through some of these so we can move on to the next topic. Horizon Zero Dawn. That looked awesome. Again.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw. So that was what was interesting to me.
Behind closed doors.
Yeah. So when I saw the game at E3 in an extended demo, that is exactly what I saw. Everything about it. I don't know if they were in a different location. It didn't look like they were. We were watching it in standard depth because we were having internet problems. But the what I saw was basically what we saw at E3. Everyone saw it at E3, but played a different way. And they went to a river, shot these tripwires, lured the herd into them to collect all the parts. Then they fought the huge dinosaur. They stopped in my demo and at E3 behind closed doors. They stopped it. Yeah, the fake crash,
I love
whatever.
that.
To flip the camera around and show how big the animal is, the creature is. So that is what I saw. I was disappointed in that in a way, but to Greg's point that he made when we were talking about it, it's like it's nice to not see it again.
Yeah. I
don't know that I need to see any more about that game. That game is going to be fucking awesome. I feel it. You know, like you just know it.
Yeah.
That game's gonna be something special if they can just put all those disparate parts together. An action RPG made by Guerrilla just sounds
awesome.
Yeah.
Uncharted 4, we saw a multiplayer trailer. I thought the trailer was really cool.
Yeah, it got me excited. Like I said, I was a huge Uncharted 2 multiplayer fan. 3 felt like more of the same, but now watching this one for 4, like the mystical stuff, the ability to call in AI helpers, they call them sidekicks, medical bombs and stuff. I was like, okay, that seems like a lot of fun.
Changing it up and adding some stuff, so that should be cool. And then they did the whole PlayStation VR stuff. Well, there was Dreams, which I don't know if you guys have a different opinion on, but I was like, I'm not happy about this.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not either.
Who's this for? What is the point of this?
I agree, man. I think that they made it a little more coherent what the game was going to be, but I still think there's a lot of incoherence. It's one of those things where the further you fall down that rabbit hole, answering questions gives you 5 more questions now.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way I feel. Some people are mad that in PS I Love You, the last episode, because they feel like I'm writing it off, and I'm like, that's fine if you feel that way. That's not the way I feel at all. What I would say is that I don't want to play games to make the game that I'm going to play. Media Molecule is very creative and they're very artistic. Make a game and give it to me to play it. That's what they did with Tearaway. There was no creation in Tearaway. I understand that that's their heritage with a little.
You went through and you created the faces.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about though, Greg. That has a linear. It has a linear like campaign.
Right, but they still put the onus on you to do things. This is rehashing PS I Love You, but I still think it's just like you're coming at it from one perspective and they're coming from the exact opposite. You're like, make me a game, and they're like, we made you the game, but the experience is you participate in it, and then maybe that's just not an experience for you.
Well,
no,
this
it's
doesn't
not.
look like that.
It's definitely not.
I mean, at least from what I've seen, it does look like it's a bit more just make stuff. Like I don't.
But But I mean, like it's because we're getting it in like grains of rice. You know what I mean? Where the first time we're like, what the fuck is this? And then the next one was like, here's a level where you do need to plant trees and put the house down or whatever. Like I was saying, maybe the objective is just put the house down, and maybe that's like the 3rd level or whatever.
But then the question comes up. And I understand that this is maybe antithetical to what they're trying to do. Clearly it is, but like, okay, so maybe you have to put the trees down in the house down. Maybe you just put the house down. My question is, why aren't the trees in the house just there? You know? Because like, why does it have to be so fucking complicated? You know, like this is the weird direction that I think that studio goes into. And I have a lot of respect for what they did and what they do. And I appreciate your open-mindedness about it. And I am more open-minded than it might sound because I think that they have a marketing problem with this game. They do.
100% I agree with that.
And they have to start. They know they're not stupid. That this is a game you're gonna send this game out to die if people don't know what it is. And they haven't had a hit really since Little Big Planet and Little Big Planet 2. So Tearaway did fine on Vita and people liked it critically, but it didn't sell that well there. And I imagine that no one really cares about it on PS4. I could be wrong. But I've heard literally...
You're going to see comments that people care, but it didn't sell units. Dude, it didn't move units.
No one's talked to me about that game. You know what I mean? Like, no one. People talk to me about the most obscure shit you've ever heard about.
Well, they come with you with stuff they know you like.
Yeah, well, that's true. So what frustrates me is that they have these Media Molecule out of all of Sony's studios, and maybe all the studios in the entire world have like the weirdest minds, the most creative like vision for what they want to make their games. And to me, it's like, okay, that's fantastic. Use that energy to make it and make your vision. I want to see what you want me to play. You know, not what you want me to make me play. Basically, it was like what, you know what I like, and I'm like, it's to say, I know it is a personal preference kind of thing.
You're trying to put them in a box, and nobody puts Media Molecule in a box.
You know, you understand what I'm saying, though? I think a lot of people out there agree with me. Like, I would love to see them just take the shackles off of this whole, like, share, create thing and just make it. Just make a fucking awesome game that's so fucking zany and weird and Media Molecule. Don't worry about all the other shit. And just let me play it. You know, I don't, like, the movement, like, the controller, and it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. You know? I'm not excited about it at all, but we haven't seen enough of it, and I'm gonna keep it on my mind.
It's one of those looking back at Little Big Planet and then Tearaway on Vita, right? Like we say all that and do this and stuff, and it's just like I never thought the levels in Little Big Planet were all that amazing. Like there were great ones. There's the very end one that I'll never forget when I was trying to platinum it and I was fucking screaming into a pillow because I don't want to wake up my girlfriend. And like, you know what I mean? There's stuff like that, but it's like, yeah, there were quirky characters, but there were a lot of just, what is this nonsense?
Yeah.
Who are all these Tim Burton characters talking to me?
But to that point, Greg.
Yeah.
That's true. But what if the onus on Little Big Planet was all the campaign? Then what? You know what I mean? Because they had to worry about creation tools and making a bunch of different shit and all this kind. You know what I mean? I respect the idea of saying like this can be a racing game, this can be a sandbox game, this can be whatever you want. But I'm like, I really just want to see what you want me to play. And if this is it, then maybe I'm just not. My interests are not parallel at all to theirs.
Sure,
they're just totally incongruent. You know, and that's disappointing.
There's a ton of other things that happened. Wild got announced. We saw Detroit become human.
Yeah, we did.
Well, those are big games.
Yeah.
Wild is far off, I think, but look, I mean, they said that, but it looks cool. I love the idea. It was a little confusing. The rabbit animation, swimming through the water, was very cute. I like the idea that it doesn't seem like a direct combat game at all. It's third person, it's open world, but it's based on like using animals. I think that's a really nice idea. I don't know anything that really does that. And Detroit, we should just.
Very excited.
Fuck, we should just spend an entire topic on Detroit. I have a lot to say about
guys,
that game.
if you want more information on that, definitely check out PS I Love You, XOXO.
He's wrapping
episode 6.
We're getting played out.
We're going long on this one. We're coming up on 40 minutes.
That's long. That's what happens when PlayStation.
But I do want to talk about Until Dawn: Rush of Blood before we move on for a second. So, it's exciting and upsetting.
What's exciting about it?
What's exciting is I think it looks fun. Like,
sure.
I think that it's something.
Did you watch the gameplay of it? And stuff? Okay.
There was like I watched a 6-minute like
IGN put up a
playthrough of it.
A bunch of
and I'm like, this looks awesome. This looks like a lot of fun. This looks scary. This looks like what I want from VR. It reminds me of those old like arcade machines where you'd go and kind of sit in the roller coasters and like go through and it's all crazy. And it's like I loved that when I was a kid. And now having it be interactive and a game being made out of it reminds me of Disneyland, like with the Buzz Lightyear game where you have the fucking guns you can shoot people,
right.
Everyone knows well.
Arcade games, carnival games as I call them, but not carnival games, the PlayStation Move game.
But it looks fun. Like it looks fun. And it's VR. It's a game. It's an experience, but it's also a game. And you get to play it. Cool. Doesn't need the Until Dawn branding. And that's the problem. And I think that, you know, everyone's going to bitch about it and complain because like, oh, this is stupid. But that's going to help it sell better. Yep. And who cares, really, at the end of the day? Because
does that then ruin does it take away from what Until Dawn is? Are you less excited for Until Dawn, whatever whatever their next real Until Dawn game is? And does anyone ever want to put out a game where you're like, that's not a real Until Dawn game. That's not a real Ratchet and Clank game. That's not a real...
Yeah.
I can think of very few games where I'm like, that's not a real X, and it was amazing.
But see, that's the thing is I think that people get caught up in this. You look at all the Zelda stuff or Mario stuff, and there are the people like, oh, it's not a real Mario. It's like... But that's the same thing though, or Zelda, like all these like Triforce Heroes or whatever.
Yeah, but Triforce Heroes isn't a real Zelda game, and I do sympathize with people that feel that way, right? Like that's not a Zelda game.
I know, but that's the point. Who cares? It's not. Like, let's just start there. It's not. Is it a good game or not? And so it's like, yeah, could it have been something else? Yes, but then it wouldn't have sold. You know, so it's totally a marketing thing.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's definitely a marketing thing. The unfortunate thing is, and to Greg's point, is that Until Dawn exists as one game, one property, and people like it. It's critically a hit, and it's doing way better, I think, than Sony anticipated it was going to do.
Cinderella story.
So now there's going to be 2 Until Dawn games, and you're going to look at the both of them and be like, okay, one is this really brilliant horror game, teen horror, nothing like it, right? It's very brilliant, out Quantic Dream. The other game is an on-rail shooter that you use in VR, and I'm like, okay, well, so what is Until Dawn now? Like what? Why does this? I agree. I think the game looks fine. I mean, it's probably gonna be fun, but I'm like, why does this have to be Until Dawn based?
Yeah, no,
I think it is a marketing thing, but I think that this is like easy gains now that can injure you later. I'm not gonna say it's gonna. I'm not gonna say it's gonna like injure the brand or whatever like that. They might not do another Until Dawn. If Supermassive makes another game, it might just have a different name entirely. But which maybe makes more sense, since the entire chapter structure was why it was called Until Dawn. But I just don't understand why this is an Until Dawn game. That's like saying, like, London studio, Sony London is doing The Heist. Why not just call it Getaway: The Heist? You know, it'll sell better. It's a Getaway game. But everyone knows that Getaway, and to a lesser extent the sequel, but Getaway is a beloved PS2 game, and that's not a Getaway game. So it's the same thing. Like, Sony London can be like, well, we made fucking The Getaway, so this is called Getaway: The Heist now. Mm-hmm. You know, even though it has nothing to do with what Getaway was. You know, so it makes me want a Getaway game so bad. But
why are we talking about the Getaway? No, I want the Getaway.
So I don't know. I understand what you're saying, and I think it's going to be fine on its own. But it's just like, we don't have to abuse IP like this, and it's especially strange to me. Although I do love, as we talked about on the show, PlayStation Lifestyle interviewed Pete Samuels, who's the executive director, I think, the executive director or producer at Supermassive, and he totally let the cat out of the bag like a month ago. And like,
but that was cool the way he did it, right? And then you brought it up, and I was like, really? Is that really what he's teasing, or is that, that was a fun little thing?
Because they were asking him about VR and DLC for Until Dawn. He's like, we have no blah blah blah. We have no plans for DLC. We're looked at VR. I'm just paraphrasing. But we don't know what we're gonna do with it unless someone has a sudden rush of blood to the head. And at that point,
well, no, he left out head. Remember, it was just unless somebody gets a sudden rush of blood.
Right.
And I was like, what a weird way to say that. Do you speak English natively?
That's
what are you talking about?
And then a week later, good for him. So guys, thank you for being here with us. If you want to hear more about all that stuff in great detail, how long was that episode?
Not much longer than this segment.
Yeah, it was an hour and 10, 20. No, hour and 10-ish. Hour and 4.
It was a supplemental episode, though. Usually we go about 90 minutes.
In total, you got like 3 hours of PS I Love You that day.
Yeah, so go check it out. iTunes.com/kindafunny. Topic 2.
Hey, guess what?
Yes.
This has never happened in 8 years of podcasting, but I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry on the day where I know we have other things going on.
No, it's fine.
You can roll if you want, but I'll be super quick.
So, second topic, predictions for the rest of the year. We got 2 months left. So I kind of want to look forward at all the things that are going to happen.
Sure.
And how we think they're going to happen.
Uncharted 4 not coming out this year.
Okay, cool.
Take it to the bank.
Okay, good.
They're not going to do that. Now they're not going to do a surprise release on you. Mm-hmm. Fallout 4 is going to blow everyone away.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's the thing. Do you guys really think that Fallout 4 is going to, kind of reach expectations?
I think it's going to exceed expectations. I think that if you look at the way Witcher 3 did, which destroyed, and it's like the fucking nerdiest game possible. I mean, we talked about that on Colin and Greg Live a couple of times, where CD Projekt Red over in Eastern Europe was like, we can't believe like how many games it's sold, and we can't believe like the people that played it. They're like, this core people obviously played it, but casual people who are not apparently that casual anymore played the game. So Fallout 4 is going to fucking murder. I would not be surprised, and I know this is a bold prediction, but stick with me. Country for country, so not cumulatively, I wouldn't be surprised if Fallout 4 was the best-selling game of the year. So what I'm saying by that is that Call of Duty sells 8 million copies in the United States, right? 10 million copies in the United States. I bet you Fallout 4 sells just as many in the United States, or whatever it is, 5 million, 6 million, whatever it's going to be. Especially because the last-gen Call of Duty games are campaignless, so they're kind of shutting that down.
Starting to fall off.
There's a very limited number of consoles out there that can play compared to the last-gen Call of Duty games, so it's going to maybe limit the numbers more. And that might benefit in some sort of universe Fallout 4. I don't know if it's likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if Fallout 4 just comes out and just fucking clobbers everything around it.
I guarantee.
Do you think that's a bold kind of thing to say that it might outsell Call of Duty?
Yeah, but it's not crazy. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
It is unlikely, but not crazy.
What we're talking about with it is, I think stick with me. It's a similar argument to how you always try to convince people how well Persona 5 is going to do. Is that the groundwork has been laid here. Fallout 3 came out, right? And people were excited for it. We were all excited for it. We jumped in, but it was a lot of people's first Fallout, similar to how Persona 3 or Persona 4 were people's first personas, right? And then you've had how many years now? What was that?
2008.
8 years? No, so 7 years now of people talking about how awesome this game was. And how many people do we have hit us up every day saying, I'm going to get Fallout 4. Should I go back and play Fallout 3? They didn't even play those. Now they just know. It's one of those things where it's fever pitch, and Bethesda recognized that. I'm sure they've seen it in their sales, in the, Pit Boys, in the tattoos of the Vault Bolt. You know what I mean? Like, people have been excited for Fallout as a franchise now for 7 years, and they're starving for it. So they get to come out and do, hey, at E3, yes, it's true. Yes, it's real. And it's coming out on this abbreviated cycle you weren't expecting, except Colin. And then, we're not going to show you much of the game, and what we do show you is a vertical slice where, guess what? It looks awesome. And that's the whole thing of like Fallout 4. For Fallout 4 to be a success, it needs to be a prettier Fallout 3. Done. That's it. That's all they need to do. Put in just as many jokes and references and American pop culture and cool characters and memorable moments and stuff. If you do all that and make it look a little bit better, everyone's going to be thrilled. And that's why, yes, it's going to exceed expectations unless it's broken as fuck.
Yeah.
If it comes out and there's a giant game-breaking bug and da-da-da-da, and
I don't think it will be.
I don't either. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think, so I want to almost reestablish like what I'm saying, because I don't know that Fallout 4, because it's not on as many consoles as Call of Duty, could
That's
pound
the one
for
thing.
pound beat it. But I wonder if console per console it's gonna be able to beat it. In other words, PS4 to PS4, Xbox One, PC to PC, especially PC. Because the modding community,
PC will crush it.
So the reason I'm saying this, the reason I'm being so bullish about Fallout is just based on the numbers we're seeing for these other random fucking games. Like Dying Light sold millions of copies. Witcher 3 sold millions and millions of copies.
Yep.
So these are like these open world, vast, nonlinear games are like what people are hungry for. Combine that with the fact that they smartly, I did predict it, and I'm so happy it was true, that Fallout would be announced at E3 and come out by the end of the year. This abbreviated schedule that keeps pounding you in the fucking face, because it's not like they announced it 18 months ago and they're like, all right, that's it. And then a year later they're like, okay, let's talk about it again. Everyone's like, I forgot this was even really happening. This has been on everyone's radar since the moment it happened, because it was already on the horizon. Like, you saw a little Pit Boy kind of riding on the hill, and he was coming getting already real close to you. So I think that this game is just going to slaughter. So, I mean, one of my major predictions is that Fallout 4 is going to fucking kill. Like, it's like, I don't know what the numbers are going to be. All I know is that the big franchises like Call of Duty are going to have fucking crazy competition this year from the likes of Battlefront and Halo. And that you're going to see plateauing numbers that I think this year are actually going to start to fall. I would not be surprised if year over year, this is the Call of Duty actually sells less than Call of Duty did last year. If that's true, Battlefront kills, Halo kills. There's only so much time in the day. Fallout's a different kind of game. I can see Fallout 4 being the champion.
And the thing about it, like, you know what I mean? The fact that what we've seen was so brief is that, like, today on Colin Moriarty Live, it was Colin Moriarty Live, somebody asked us, right, like, are we excited to, how much time do you think you're going to put into building out your settlements and stuff? And it was literally one of those things like, who the fuck knows? We've seen it for 2 seconds. I have no idea what that feels like. There's so much beyond the start screen of that game that I don't know what I'm getting into, and that's what's so exciting about it. That's why I think it'll be easily over your expectations.
And unlike Call of Duty or even Halo or even Battlefront, Fallout 4 is going to sell for years. So it's another one of those, like, the burn on Fallout 3 must be so extraordinary. Like, they must just look at their ledger every month and be like, I can't believe this game still is selling like this. Like, they must literally sell like 50, 100,000 copies of that game still a month. Yeah. You have to assume you have to just assume that that's just an assumption, but you have to assume that that's just one of those games that just won't go away. It's like Oblivion or Skyrim.
Yeah.
These games sold extremely well, and I think people underestimate the hunger for these kinds of games. So that's one of my major predictions, is that everyone's like, I've been talking about like Tomb Raider and Fallout, how Fallout's going to cannibalize Tomb Raider, and everyone's like, different audiences, and even Aaron Greenberg said that, and I agree to that to a sense, but Tomb Raider's the least of your fucking worries. It's obviously going to destroy Tomb Raider. The question is, what is it going to do to the major players around it?
Yeah.
And how will those major players affect Call of Duty? In a situation where I think people are increasingly now suffering from Call of Duty fatigue. I think that you're going to start to see it, and I'm. It's not earned on a game by game basis, because I think the games are great. It is earned on a just like shoving it down your throat basis. The other game we're going to see ride or die is Assassin's Creed, which is already out, and I'm really interested to see how that game does. because I just don't feel like anyone cared about that game.
Well, critically, it's interesting to see how Assassin's Creed and Halo are doing, and they're both getting really good reviews. Do you think that Call of Duty is going to kind of stay on trend and get
I'm sure Call of Duty is going to get great scores because it's a great game. I'm sure it's going to be a great game. I have no doubt about that. But a lot of great games come out, and when you look at your shelf and you're like, Jesus Christ, I have 8 Call of Duty games on my shelf from 8 years, and I don't have time. Oh, and Battlefront's coming out. I'm real excited about Star Wars. And and a new Halo game is out, and I can get my shooter fix there. And then you just see this one beacon that's totally different than everything around it, and that works to its benefit, man.
Yep.
Absolutely, 100%. They could have released that game the same day as Call of Duty, and it would have done just as well, I think, because that really is a different game.
I think you're going to see that everything we just talked about. I think you'll see Tomb Raider totally struggle, not turn big numbers. And I think the same thing for Just Cause 3. I think the fact that it's coming out after Black Friday hurts it as usual. I think it's going to be an awesome game. You guys have done Let's Plays with it. I've watched a lot of footage
so
and
much
stuff.
fun.
It's cool and it's fun, but I remember that being that's what we talked about for Just Cause 2 as well. And Just Cause 2 came out at an awkward time as well, where it just didn't get it has its following, but it didn't get big. This is another game that's not going to get big. Not that it'll be bad by any means. I'm totally stoked for it.
I disagree with you in the sense that I don't think Just Cause 3 is going to be like the sales darling or anything like that. I do think, and I was talking to the guys about, to the guy when we went to do the Let's Play, I was like, I think that the conventional wisdom of not releasing games in December is wrong. And that if you can get your game out early in December, you're probably okay. Black Friday is one thing, but people aren't looking for new video game software that just came out on Black Friday, in my opinion. I mean, like, what are you going to save? Like $2 on it? Like, there's an MSRP on the game. They have to charge a certain amount of games.
That's what parents are looking for.
Sure, but what they're looking for those days is like hardware. Can I get $30 off the hardware if I do this, that, or the other thing? Like, the game's going to cost $60. No one's going to walk into a store unless the companies want to eat it, because the games have to be sold at a certain price. I mean, that's there are like rules about those kinds of things.
Sure, but there's Black Friday deals on games all the time.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that if Just Cause had come out a week before Black Friday, they're really going to cut $20 off of a brand new game. Like, this seems like it lets it exist on its own, and everything's already out. And then by December, Fallout comes out November 10th. A lot of people might be straight up done with that game by December 1st, and maybe even before that.
But that's when I think you start working your way backwards on what you've missed, your Tomb Raiders, your Battlefronts, what's happening here. I mean, like, what you're talking about, keep in mind too, I'm talking critically and for Game of the Year. Like, we saw this with Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 came out in December. Mitch banged the drum. This game is awesome. You guys need to talk about it. We need to do it. And like, yeah, we'll get to it. I have a million other things to get to it. And by the time we got to it, Game of the Year had already been voted for. And you're like, fuck, this was a great game.
And he was right. Yep.
And it deserved at least a nomination. I'm pretty sure I got snubbed on nomination front.
Yeah.
Because we had weeks with these other games that were like, these are fucking great. And I'm not saying those games sucked in comparison to Far Cry, but it's like Far Cry got the short end of the stick there. And that's where I think it's this giant thing of like, where do you think this game's going to go?
Yeah, but that isn't the problem of the consumer, right? Like, no one cares about if it gets a Game of the Year nomination or not, or like, that's the problem of the publisher and maybe the outlets. The fact is, it's the same conventional wisdom that was bucked with Dying Light. Like, no one thinks that a game should be released in January, even early February, although February is becoming more in vogue, but like, releasing a game in the middle of January is like suicidal, yet it wasn't. And so I think that, it's like the original Jack and Daxter came out like 2 weeks before Christmas, and it was and people loved it. So it's not like there's no precedent for it. I do think that people have to spread the calendar out a little bit more. I understand that there's a sales imperative on getting like the game to market and getting parents to buy it and giving them time to shop and all that kind of stuff. But
I do think things are changing too with like the Black Friday stuff, because Black Friday isn't as big of an event as it used to be now that the internet exists.
Sure.
And now that Amazon's a thing, and now that Best Buy online has better deals than Black Friday deals. And parents are used to buying online now. Parents are used to buying their Christmas presents, having them shipped to them, and that's it. So I do think that it's more different this year than it's ever been. And I think that it's just going to continue to get more and more different than that. So I agree, though, that it's a weird time period to put out a game, but I think that because it's alone, it at least has a chance.
Yeah, it'll be the biggest game in December, and that's a weird thing to say, but I really just don't believe that people go and wait online for 8 hours to get into Walmart to buy a $60 game for $50. That's not what people are like. That might be a supplemental purchase, but they want a TV, they want a fucking PS4, they want an Xbox One.
I don't think
want a computer
the Black
or a
Friday
laptop.
thing's about the deals, though, because I think that Black Friday is just when people are there shopping as well.
Hey,
Like, there
I
are
need
the
your
people-
Christmas list. I'm going shopping tomorrow.
Yeah,
That's what
and
I'm
so it's
talking
like
about.
the people that are waiting in line are a totally different crowd than the people that are going at 4 p.m. on Thursday.
Who the fuck leaves at their house on Black Friday, man?
So many fucking people.
It's unbelievable.
Everyone in the middle of the country.
I haven't gone out on a Black Friday since 1998. Why did I go out on Black Friday in 1998? To get that DualShock controller for my PS1. Why did I do that? I want to play Metal Gear. And you know what? It all worked out fine. I also got a little green vest that day that I wore. I really liked.
Like just a vest to wear alone, or was it like?
It was like
a
it
Metal
was
Gear
like a fleece vest.
Oh, okay, like North Face kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm caught.
I remember that day really well for some reason. But I remember going into the mall and being like, why am I here? And I was in 9th grade. I was like, why am I here? What the fuck is going on here? And I was like, I need this controller. Just get the hell out of here. But then I was with my sisters and her friends, and I was like, oh.
Did you see the REI stores thing?
No.
That they refuse to open on.
They're closing.
Oh.
They're not opening any store on Black Friday. They're paying all their employees for the day, and they're just saying go outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black Friday's like I got to be honest with you, Black Friday's fucking embarrassing. But we
it's
should actually
changing, man.
we should save that for Game Over, Greg. And
Okay.
that's as much as I am into market capitalism and consumerism. That is fucking nuts. Like people running amok, fighting each other. That's the best part about Drudge Report on fucking Friday night. Every Black Friday is that they just have a compilation of all the videos.
Fucking killed or
Like
shoved into a door.
it's like holy shit! Like is it really worth your humanity
For
to
like
save
saving $100,
$200 on TV?
That's the whole problem is when it escalates. Because when it's just let's line up and get a great deal. Well, I've lined up for consoles. That's fun. But yeah, it's when they all run and people are getting thrown into poles and hurt. And then like, what the fuck? Yeah.
It's like, do you know the internet exists?
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing is like I haven't been Black Friday shopping in years. Actually, I don't know if I ever.
All right, save it.
Yeah.
We are getting. Now we're just talking about Black Friday. That's our great Game Over Greggy show.
Yeah,
Kevin,
okay.
put it in the ledger.
Going back to the predictions and stuff, though, going to Nintendo, I want to talk about something that is interesting to discuss right now because tomorrow they're going to announce the mobile game. I want to predict that. By the time you guys hear this, our predictions will be correct or wrong. So, Colin, what do you think it's going to be?
Mario.
You think it's Mario? Do you think we're going to get a release date?
Yes.
And do you think it'll be this year?
Yes. I think that they said it would be this year, not in the most recent announcement, but I thought the assumption was that they would try to get their first game out by the end of the year. I don't know if they're going to still stick to that, but I believe that's
what they said when they first talked about the DNA stuff.
So I think that it's a Mario game. You have to assume. I don't know, man. Like I wouldn't be shocked if it's like a side scroller. I wouldn't be shocked if like they're really trying to figure out to like the first game that comes out of DNA with this Nintendo DNA deal must be something that shifts the paradigm, right? It must be something that's not predictable. It can't be an Mario. If it's a Mario Endless Run or something, just enough. It's the two things that I think about that would be fucking absurd for them to do in a good way is to either have a competent Mario side-scrolling game that you can really play and it works. Even though a lot of people aren't going to want to play it, core gamers, because it's not tactile and it doesn't have controls. Something like that. The bigger thing would be if it was a Pokemon game.
Now, the thing with Pokemon is...
They already got the other Pokemon.
They're working on Pokemon Go. But in addition to that, recently, like this week, we saw that Game Freak acquired some mobile developer or whatever to like work on stuff. So I think it's a little early to get a Pokemon announcement.
That's so obvious, right? Like,
although, my God.
Just because the core Pokemon JRPG style, the way the game's played and the way you interface with the game would work fine on the phone. It would work totally fine on the phone.
You don't need it to be on DS
exactly.
or
There's
Game
no
Boy.
reason that you have to have a D-pad or buttons to play that game as it stands right now. And that's so obvious. And the fact that they didn't do that years ago. I understand that they don't want to cannibalize, obviously, the sales of their hardware. But 3DS is dying, as we saw today. And with their financials, they released their financials, 1.5 million Wii U sold in 6 months, something like 2.5 or 3 million 3DSs. So it's definitely time to shove that away. And I think the NX will solve that problem. We're gonna have something very vibrant and unique with them on that front. But Pokemon, a real Pokemon game, not a bullshit Pokemon game, real Pokemon game on iOS and Android would sell millions and millions and millions and millions of units, and you could charge $30 with it, and it will still sell millions and millions and millions of units. So that I think is the ultimate goal. If they come out though, Tim, and they have this like very generic fucking microtransaction laden nonsense that is just a reskin of something they've already done, it's the beginning of the end of that initiative being relevant to core gamers. They have to come out immediately and get the core gamer, the Nintendo fan. Yeah.
I mean, do you think that'll happen? Because I don't think that
I think it's entirely possible.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So here's the thing. It's not likely based on what DNA does. It is likely based on what Nintendo does. And for them to get together, I just don't imagine that Iwata and those guys, when Iwata, you know, rest in peace Iwata, because I mean he's deceased now, but he did make this deal. And I just find it hard to believe that a man from a software background that made great games like Kirby, that has hardcore sensibilities, that really brought hardcore gaming sensibilities and maintained them for Nintendo for so long, would then go to a mobile game company and sell out to them instead of them selling out to Nintendo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Like, DNA, in my mind, DNA has no power in this relationship, and Nintendo has all the power. If we see something different, then that suggests that the power dynamic between these two companies is different than that. And is the imperative on them to make something free and something accessible to everyone and something that's microtransaction laden and just soaking the land with it, or is their goal to prove that Nintendo can be really viable on this platform with Nintendo games? Is it going to be a Nintendo game?
I don't think those things are mutually exclusive, though. I mean, I think in the sense of like winning over the core gamers and stuff, it is. But I think that a microtransaction thing where it is free to everybody and like if the microtransactions make sense, I don't think that that's a wrong answer. People get upset about mobile gaming being that way, but if done right for something like Pokemon, I don't think that that's the wrong answer. Would I prefer paying $30 and getting just a game that I don't need to deal with any of the bullshit? Definitely. But I would be shocked if that would happen. Like, I don't think that that's even a possibility. Like, there's almost no reason to do that when they could be making so much more money just simply having the option for the microtransactions and shit.
Well, could they? I mean, the question is, say you have a $1 game and it's a endless runner Mario game.
Yeah.
And you sell 20 million. So you make $20 million, right? I mean, that's gross. Obviously, it's not net. Or you make a Pokemon game and you charge $20 for it and you sell 1 million copies of it. It's the same difference. So it really is monetarily. So it really is a matter of like what the intent is. And I don't know. I don't know what the intent is. Is the intent to stay relevant? Is the intent to really pierce the Japanese market, which is very mobile centric in core gaming, much more so than the West? I don't know what their intent is. We'll find out what their intent is when this game's announced. And obviously this is going to be such an old conversation by the time people hear it. But I don't want Nintendo to sell out like that. That's not.
They won't. That's not what they're going to do.
That's so crazy that you really just straight up think they won't.
I mean, it's going to be a Nintendo game. It's going to be a Mario game, period. Like, it has to be. Like, that's your first mobile game's got to be Mario. I think it'll borrow ideas from what DNA does, but it's got to be Nintendo through and through, right? And that's what they've talked about. If not, it's totally fucked. But like, to what your point is, I mean, like, to bring it to cell phones and get this Japanese audience that has great memories of Nintendo but doesn't care too much about the handheld over their phones. You know what I mean?
We'll see. It's exciting. It's very interesting.
Very excited about this.
I'm super interested.
The other thing is, so they announced that there's going to be a direct before the end of the year, the first direct that presents Iwata. And what do you think will be announced for that? Do you think that they'll just be talking about 2016 stuff, or do you think we'll be getting it in 2015?
I think that it'll be kind of confirming that Zelda's still on Wii U. That although they've really insinuated that it is. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that it's still going to be a Wii U game. Maybe it'll be both, but
it's going to be both.
The Zelda games coming, maybe they date it. Star Fox maybe dated, maybe a few 3DS games in there.
Star Fox for sure dated.
And no mention of NX. You will not hear about that console until E3. I really believe that. I think this is them saying like, we're here. Iwata is passed. We're still going to do this. Here are some new cast of characters that you need to know. Here are the games that are coming out for Wii U. We appreciate that even though the console is struggling mightily, it's not even past 11 million units, which is like abysmal for how long it's been on the market. Everything's fine. These games are in operation and they work and it's good. Everything's gonna be great. See you in E3.
I think we'll get a Smash Bros. Update, some form of DLC. I think.
Oh, interesting.
With new characters. If I had to put bets down, I'd say the Splatoon Inkling.
That's a good point.
I think they'll put that out and try to like push, because I think it'd be dumb for them to not use Smash as a way to promote their other games. Like they did that for so long leading into it coming out, where it's like whenever Sonic Lost World's announced, and so it's like, oh, Sonic's in Smash, and like they kept kind of doing that, and it's like now that Smash exists, they can just keep doing that. So why not push Splatoon again for the holiday season and all that stuff? I like that we're getting a Mario Maker update in a couple days. I don't think we'll get more by the end of the year, but it could be cool.
It's almost 2 million sold now.
It's awesome. The bigger question for me though is looking forward to when you're talking about Zelda. Like, I hope that you're wrong and that they don't mention Zelda at all, and then eventually they're just like, it is just an X.
They can't. I want that too. I really do, and I think that maybe it's disappeared off the face of the planet because they are porting it.
Yep.
But they can't do that to the Wii U audience. If I was a Wii U owner, I'd be fucking furious.
See,
if they did
I'm
that.
a Wii U owner,
and there's only 11 million of you.
But I'm just like, please, just say fuck you to me. Like, just do this right. Launch with that shit. Like, this is we need a win to be able to move forward. You know what I mean? We need to make it so that when we have these conversations, Nintendo's not a fucking joke. So it's like, launch with a goddamn Zelda game. Don't make it a port. Just launch. That's it. You want that Zelda game? You need to get that shit. You know?
You're not going to be happy with when it's cross-platform?
No. I mean, and that's the thing is, it's just like, I know that I'm saying this, and this is probably not a popular opinion, but it's like, we've got great games on the Wii U. Like, people would argue how many we got. Like, I think that there's more than enough to make the Wii U worth buying.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's leave there. Yeah, we were promised this Zelda game, but it's like, I don't know. At this point, I'd rather Nintendo succeed. I'd rather them start doing things right to everybody.
My thing with it, even if they like leave it on the Wii U so they don't piss off people, put it on the NX so they have a reason to buy the NX. So I have a reason to buy the NX. I have a Wii U, but I'm still going to buy an NX at launch if it's awesome and has cool games.
Yeah, the NX, I'm in on the NX if it's cool.
Regardless of whether it comes on Wii U or not, it's still going to be a port from the Wii U. It's not like they stopped and went back and started all fresh with the Zelda game, right? The Zelda game started on the Wii U, and I'm sure they were like, oh, fuck, this is screwed. Let's put it on the next one. And then they are right back to where they were with Twilight Princess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we don't know what the NX is, so it's like kind
we
of
do. It's this, and it's a hybrid system.
Yeah, we know it's going to give it to you.
It's going to give it to you in handheld and console fashion.
Yeah, I hear the one conundrum, because everyone assumes that this might be like a Twilight Princess situation, is that I don't think Zelda is going to come out in the fall. I think Zelda is going to be done way sooner than that. So the only question is, assuming it's a Wii U game still, that the game's April, May. Like I like maybe the summer, like at the very, like
really?
Yeah. And I think that, remember that this game was already delayed. Like this game was supposed to be out by now. So the delay either is because you have to assume sending it to NX, but then if the NX comes out in say the fall 2016, and I don't really believe that console is coming out next year, but if it does, that would be great. I'll be very excited about that. I'd love to see Nintendo get back in the game. Then do they hold Zelda? If Zelda's done for Wii U, do they release it on Wii U in like May and then they release a port at launch for NX? Do they do the GameCube thing where they release it at the same time, even though one probably is already done? Like there's a lot of weird questions that I don't know. They have a conundrum with this game because I agree that it's an important game, but here's the thing about this. Twilight Princess did really well. Really well. Skyward Sword sold moderately well, but I think people overestimate how well Zelda does. And like, as far as I remember, we talked about, I think Uncharted 3 outsold Skyward Sword, which is incredible. Because you always assume Zelda would push
pillar of the
10, 50
industry.
million, but it doesn't sell that like that. It's like a more extreme version of what we say with Metroid, where Metroid just doesn't sell that well. We want a Metroid game, and it's like not a system seller. I do think, by the way, Metroid will be a launch game for NX. That I do 100% believe.
That's cool.
Now, and I think it's a retro game and all that. But with this particular game, they have a conundrum because it's like, okay, Zelda's a compelling game for launch for people that will already buy the system. So they have to play there's a calculus here. There's risk taking that has to be involved here. You don't want to fuck the Wii U audience. Those are the only reliable people that will buy the new console. Yeah. Maybe. The Nintendo core audience has shrunk to such a degree that they cannot take anything for granted anymore. So it's a delicate dance, man. I would not be surprised if there's a major backlash on them if this game's not on Wii U. And I would personally be pretty pissed if I bought a Wii U and this game was promised to me and I saw this game multiple times and it was talked about multiple times and they just move it off the system. I just think that's disingenuous and I don't think that Nintendo's going to do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the counter argument would be that's how you feel, right? And I think that the Nintendo fan now that's still there and is still hardcore and is still buying amiibos hand over fist because they love Nintendo. I don't know if they'd be that upset. I have the Wii U out there. I wouldn't care.
Whatever, not only would I not be upset, I want that, but I don't think it's going to happen because you're right. There will be people that are upset, and
of course,
the worst part is the people that wouldn't buy it either way are going to be the most upset, and they're going to be super loud about it.
You'll never know. I mean, it's the same. You're right. I mean, amiibos sell so well. I don't even own a Wii U. I use your Wii U, but I have amiibo because I like those characters. Or whatever. So it's hard to gauge like what is the temperature of the Nintendo fan base right now. Like what is a Nintendo fan? What does that even mean right now? Wii U owners, there's not many of them. They're like the Vita owners of Nintendo. Like the Vita owners are like the most hardcore, really, the PlayStation audience, like the core of the core of the core of the PlayStation audience. I look at the Wii U audience is that why I look at the 3DS, which is sold about 5 times better than Wii U, as like the more proliferated piece of hardware. And I just don't think you want to like PlayStation knows that the Vita audience butters their bread in a major way, not on Vita, but just generally in that ecosystem. And I think Nintendo might look at Wii U owners and being like, we know there's not many of you, but you're the ones. You're the ones that have the attach rate of Mario Kart is 1 for every 2 consoles.
Yeah.
That is unfucking heard of for a game that didn't come bundled in with every console. You know what I mean? So
And even like Animal Crossing, the like weird one selling super
yeah,
well.
it sold 2 million units. So they're there. They're
weird one.
out there. You know, you just got to treat them. It's a very tenuous situation because Nintendo fans, I know because I was a Nintendo fan for a very long time, and I call myself, as I've joked around, a reformed Nintendo fan. But as Greg knows, because Greg and I became friends at this time, I lied to myself for years about the Wii. And I know and there's a significant amount of Stockholm syndrome in this audience right now, and they just need something that is authentically awesome. You know? So give them two things that are authentically awesome: that fucking Zelda game on Wii U and that console. You know? Give them two fucking awesome things. I want Nintendo fans to triumph in 2016.
Me too.
And I want to come back into the
that
fold.
so bad. I want all of
I'll
this.
pretend like I was never gone. It'll piss everyone off.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Cannot wait.
That'd be awesome.
Remember that Bayonetta 2, man? Hell yeah.
Oh man, I've been down with this goddamn Wii Sports shit forever.
Okay, we're back. It's another day. You guys didn't know this was going to happen, but we're all changed. I have a haircut.
looks
Things have
good.
happened. Thank you. They went real deep.
I like that.
Yeah.
Balls deep.
I'm pretty happy about it. They usually don't go this deep.
Yeah.
Like, no, Tim, we're not going that deep. But what we're doing here is we're adding on to this topic because we were predicting things like the Nintendo announcement that yesterday we were going to say is going to happen tomorrow, but today it happened. Ironically, yesterday, because of how
Japan's
time
ahead-
zones work.
Right. But no,
But,
the conversation organically went to that point, and then it's like, well, let's not stop. But then it was like, well, let's stop and talk about what happened.
Yeah.
So the Mario game that we both thought would happen totally happened.
No.
Damn it!
My God. So did you see what happened, Colin?
I saw the name of it. Oh, I saw that they announced like a cloud save system, and then they announced
Hold on,
like
what is the name of it?
I think it's called. It's probably the worst name. Oh, the game.
The game.
I don't know. You're the host. It's up to you to figure that out.
No, I need to figure this out. Hold on.
I think it's Nintendo Dojo.
No, it's definitely not that. It is
Brain
Explain.
age.
Miitomo is the name of
Miitomo.
it. Miitomo. It looks like Tomodachi Life, but just on a phone
Yeah.
and like more simplistic. And with V's and stuff, and yay.
There you go.
It's free. It's a communication thing. They want people to be able to communicate using their phones.
Okay.
Oh no.
Novel
Yeah.
idea.
Text messaging.
Are there puzzle pieces?
phone calls?
No. So, but that's the thing is like
Twitter.
yesterday when we were talking about or even in this topic, when we were talking about the predictions and stuff, I thought it was going to be something like this. I thought it was going to be free, just like 3DS Street Pass type stuff. Like, all right. And this is what it is. No fucking Mario, no Zelda, no Pokemon, nothing that I think anyone really cares about.
I really didn't believe that Nintendo would sell their soul to this line of games and this way of merch.
It seemed like they were getting it. We
so
talk
weird.
about
Did
NX
it?
and we talk about
Yeah.
them slowing down and we
I
talk
don't-
about
I don't
this.
think it did.
We talk about them finally taking their properties and put them on mobile devices.
I thought you guys were crazy for thinking that we were getting that.
Well, we like to believe in the good in people, not just the
I like to
horribleness.
hope for the good in people, but this is a perfect example of like where their head's at right now. Are they building towards something great? Yeah. Will there be awesome mobile games announced next year? Hopefully, maybe.
There's
But
no
not
reason to
right
believe
now.
that now.
Yeah, I know. Well, they did.
If this
say,
is what they're coming out of the gate with.
They said that in the next year. That well, first off, this got delayed.
Yeah,
So
not
it's
coming out
not
the-
this
now you're coming
year.
this year. Yeah.
So pretty much everything we said yesterday. It's just
Well, no. To that point, they did say the game was coming out this year.
No, I
And-
know.
And then they said it was delayed yesterday. So that's not an.
well, I know. But my question that I was asking yesterday is, do you think it'll happen this year?
Oh, I mean, I thought so because I didn't think that making little baby games on baby phones was going to be this big of a deal. But apparently, it is a big deal to make a baby game on a baby phone, and they need time to make their baby games on their baby phone. So, I just can't. I didn't think when Nintendo married itself in some way to DNA, I really didn't think that they would do that with the same old thing in mind. What I thought that they identified with DNA was this is a company that knows how to make money online. They might have a certain way of doing it. Maybe we have to make the games free and have microtransactions or whatever, just the way their games are. But certainly they're going to make a game that's up to Nintendo's standards. Surely they'll make a game that's up to Nintendo's standards if Nintendo's name's on it. But so this is a scary thing. This to me is Nintendo, that is usually a company about. I'm not saying maybe this game, whatever the fuck it is going to be great, but Nintendo's always about quality. We always talk about how well at least their games are good. Well, can you say that now?
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, people did like Tomodachi Life a lot.
Yeah, people really did like.
So it's like this
Tamagotchi.
isn't for us, but this is obviously for an audience that's
Sure.
really, really big. So I don't know. It's upsetting to me because this is not what I want. But what is cool, the good thing that they talked about was the My Nintendo account thing. That's finally a unified account across Wii U, 3DS.
What's the name of it?
My Nintendo account.
Yeah, I think it's called Nintendo account or something like that. Like I think that's literally the name of it or something like that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean that's the other problem is
right.
they like the
Good.
way that
Very
they
good.
talked about it wasn't very clear. Because they talked about something called My Nintendo, and they also talked about something called New Nintendo account. So it's a little confusing as to whether or not those are the exact like the same thing. I think they are. Like I think it's just talking about things referring to as New Nintendo accounts, just saying that it's not Club Nintendo. It's now My Nintendo. But
can I change my Nintendo Network ID?
so it sounds like this kind of replaces that stuff.
Okay.
Like it sounds like this is an account that then goes across all of that stuff so that you can sign into the Play Online or whatever. And also it hopefully will be like some form of trophy achievement system across games where, and they said that you can earn points based on buying the game and then also based on doing things in the game.
Pay to win.
That you could download digital stuff or get physical rewards, just like Club Nintendo was. We'll see how it actually looks for North America because we usually got snubbed.
It's
Pretty
good
hard.
they learned that lesson about confusing names with the Wii and Wii U and My Nintendo and Nintendo Club and I don't know. The whole thing I was just reading about it in a very cursory way yesterday when I was settling in for the night and I was surprised. I was like I just can't believe Nintendo like this tells me not that they've always had hardcore sensibilities because they haven't. I mean I don't think Animal Crossing is a hardcore game, for instance. This Tamagotchi game doesn't seem like it's hardcore at all. But they've had these like hardcore sensibilities that kept their gamers. I don't really feel like any Nintendo fans like, man, this is exactly what I wanted.
I mean, but that's not fair to say. You can't say any Nintendo fan because obviously the people that like those Nintendo games are thrilled about this.
Well, it's like we were talking about with the 11 million. It's not even 11. It's 10 and a half, 10.7 million people, whatever, that own a Wii U. Though that to me is like that's your core, like your core audience, and like is that really like the shit that they want? Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for Nintendo fans, man. I really do.
The question is this them pivoting, trying to get the smartphone market rather than Nintendo fans? Are they trying to get the casual person who uses their phone? Hey, what's our most casual, approachable experience that people like that's super easy and weird to get into? Well, Tamagotchi life.
They do have, to that point, because the mobile market's a trash heap that's on fire all the time, and it's never been extinguished. It only gets worse. But there are a few companies that can like elbow their way in and actually have prominence and be seen just based on money and relationships. I mean, if Nintendo goes to Apple and is like, we want, prominent placement for this game, they're going to get it. And so they're to that point, they are one of the few companies that could enter that very crowded, very bullshit, very dog eat dog market and actually prevail and make a lot of money. DNA makes a lot of money doing it. So, that is a good point, but it's like that. I really feel like that dilutes your brand and stuff like that. It would have been so cool for them to take advantage of. Even though they sometimes fail, they do push tech forward in their own unique way with motion or with whatever. And it would have been cool for them to say like, listen, we really think this could be a viable platform that can play real games. And I just don't understand why they're leaving all of these obvious ideas on the table to do like rehashed ideas or social ideas or whatever. It's like just make games. This is what you do. Like everyone wants your games on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One because they respect the shit out of you as a publisher and a creator of games. And I know what it's like. If I was a Nintendo fan, I'd be real scared about this particular initiative now because if this is the way they're coming out of the gate, then it doesn't show that they really give a shit about, and again, I'll say it, about a core Nintendo fan. That's not a core Nintendo game. And that's not, I don't care how well it's sold. That's not, it doesn't mean anything. It's other than like some money on your ledger, and that doesn't mean anything to fans of games that people that play the games. So I don't know. It was weird. I really thought for sure that they were gonna really blow us away because I've seen a Nintendo the last year or year and a half that really seems to understand what's going on and trying to fix it. And it's hard to turn a battleship. It takes time. You got to like start turning the wheel and be patient and wait for the ship to turn. And so I thought that that's the process we were in, and like some of these things were a little weird to me.
See, I look at this and I think that this is it's all getting ready for the future. And I think that this is them not coming out of the gate. This is them just being like, all right, we're going to be doing stuff. This is not the announcement we want to make, which why even say anything? I don't know. But this isn't the first Nintendo thing on the App Store, like on mobile phones. There's been like Pokemon stuff before, and none of them too substantial, but there was the Pokemon trading card game that straight up just came out of nowhere. And like that's Game Freak, so it's a little bit different.
That's kind of the point, though, right? Came out of nowhere. This was the thing that they announced. They deliberately talked about this partnership.
We have this many games. We're going to be going out. We're partnering with these guys. We're making mobile games.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
sound different.
I do think that they talked about coming out with it this year, and then it got delayed. So all of this, I think, is this how I would have done it? No. But I do think that I'm still looking forward to what the other games are. They are making other games. And
I'm now looking forward to every announcement.
Uh-huh.
Every time they're like, we got a new announcement, I'm like, can't wait to see what this trash heap's
Yeah.
I mean,
whatever,
what's going to
man.
happen this time? How's the internet going to react?
I mean, well, the internet reaction to this is like hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Didn't react.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. And
You
that's
walked
because
in today
no one
before we
cares.
sat down to do the show, and you're like, yeah, and we got, I don't know how we want to handle the update. I was like, oh, right. Has it not happened yet? And you're like, no, it happened. I'm like, oh, I've seen no one talk about this on the
Yeah,
internet.
but the audience, but the internet would have cared if it was something that was aimed at the people on the internet that care about Nintendo. That's the whole fucking point.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if they really like actually announced something that anyone cared about, I mean, it's making the point. Like sure, people are gonna play it. Yeah, we want to be social and communicate with games. Or it's like, all right, well, you guys make games that are great. Can we have one of those? Maybe.
Yeah,
that'd be nice. I don't know. I feel for Nintendo fans, man, because I know what that's like to just hold on and
Sure.
and like look around and be like, it's got to get better than this, right? It's got to get better than this. And I still have a lot of hope in the NX, but then again, I don't know. I want
Will X really give it to us? Is
well,
what we have to start worrying.
now we're questioning.
Is X gonna give it to us?
It's just I know these are like small announcements in the grand scheme of things, and it's easy to it's not it's all conjecture, but you can read into some of this stuff and just be like, okay, this is disappointing. This is bringing the ship's turning. Like just let it turn and I wanted this announcement to be something really cool. I almost really believe that they were gonna really do something paradigm shifting for themselves and for maybe that for the Nintendo audience and for people that own phones and stuff like that and be like, we want to make hardcore games on this thing, And I thought that would have been cool. And I understand they don't want to cannibalize the 3DS, but guess what? The 3DS is dying too. So, the NX, whatever that is, can rectify that situation. I know they don't want to cannibalize their hardware, but it's the same thing we talk about with Xbox putting games on PC and Xbox 360, right? Or Xbox One. Where it's like, yeah, what's the economic reality of doing that and
Right.
stuff like that. But I don't know. I just think it's a weird move, and maybe the second or third game will be like a hardcore game. But that you set a cadence, you set a rhythm with your first announcement, and
Yeah,
it's weird. I'm not saying that the game itself is going to be bad. I'm sure it's going to be a very quality game. It's not the formula that I was hoping that they would
It's
follow.
not the first step you wanted.
Yeah, I mean maybe people in Japan are really excited about it. I
That's
don't
a
know.
good point too. That it is probably trying to aim at them.
But DNA being a well-established Japanese company, but
I mean, it's definitely aimed towards them.
yeah, but
if you look at it, it's the most Japanese thing ever.
But
It's like that cat game
but I'm
Goldfarb got
gonna
obsessed
give
with.
you I'm gonna give you a little insight though, right? The Nintendo salvation isn't in Japan, and no gaming company's salvation is in Japan. PS4, they just announced PS4 sold 29.3 million units, of which maybe 1.5 million of them were sold in Japan. So it's like you gotta look outside of that country in order to satiate an audience, a much bigger audience of gamers that really want to engage with your stuff
And spend money.
And Sony realized that for the first time, really.
Yep. That's the reason PlayStation 4 is so successful is because they turned around and they looked at everybody and were like, we're doubling down on gamers. We don't, yeah, sure, it plays Netflix. Yeah, it does all that crap you care about. Let's talk about games. Let's talk about nuts and bolts. I'm talking about that February presentation. We understand it was hard to develop for the PlayStation 3. This one won't be that. This is going to be easy to port your games. This is how it's looking. We want to make games. We want to do games. We want to make games. And that's the message people have responded to when in reality, when you compare Xbox One and PS4 to each other, right? Like, is there one like leaps and bounds ahead of each other in terms of, what I mean? No, like you could go either way and have a great experience and be great, but PlayStation was very clear with their message and bet on gamers, and the gamers are there for them. Yeah. And that's what we always talk about with NX is what we want, right? Is that they come back out and like it's a hybrid machine and you can take your games on the road, you bring them back. It's games. Not Tamagotchi life.
Yeah, and it's just simpler than that. It's like, whether it was 1.5, 2 million, 3 million units, whatever PS4 sold in Japan, I don't think it's even that much at all. There's 100 million people there, and the lion's share of that Japanese company's Japanese machine is being sold in the West because they understood what needed to be done to proliferate the brand.
Yep.
And so it's aimed at the Japanese market, and that's great. And there are 100 million people with 100 million cell phones in Japan, and we've both been there and several times, and you see, I mean, it's very obvious that's the way people play games there, and you see 3DSs and
it's a very mobile.
Yeah. It is.
Gaming place. So,
it is.
So that's
it
the
is.
difference when you're talking about PS4 and stuff, where here, there's a lot more console stuff, but there it is handhelds.
Right. But even 3DS is doing very well in Japan, but those 52 or 53 million units are not, a lion's share of those are not in Japan either. So the point is that, they do have a market outside of Japan that they should be looking at as well, very, very closely, because Nintendo was a big deal with Famicom and with Game & Watch and all that kind of stuff in its own way in Japan, but it was the proliferation of the NES and the SNES and all these things that made it obviously a global phenomenon. People in the West like these games and they like this brand and they have a kindred connection to it.
Yeah.
So I just hope it's sad because it looks like we beat up on Nintendo a lot. Maybe we do, but there are a few companies I care about more too. Like where I want to see this company just fucking shove a boot in someone's ass. I really do. Like I really do want to see it. And I hope NX is now the thing that I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with it. And hopefully, if this caters to the casual crowd, hopefully this will cater to like the antithesis of that.
I hope.
NX is very much like The Division, where I can't wait to see it disappoint Colin.
Yeah,
I mean, to see him crushed, and then the anger he will unleash on the internet.
If NX is disappointing, it's another Wii U and all that kind of stuff. Man, I am finished. Just straight up finished. I will never even talk about that company again.
It's gonna be like until it's not. I don't believe it's gonna be anything but disappointing to us. All right, moving on. So I read a really interesting article on this little website called IGN.com by our boy Mitch Dyer.
I love Mitch Dyer.
He's a good dude. So the article was entitled "Halo 5 Ads Lied to You." Okay.
Yeah, I know this one.
Okay. Yeah.
This got kicked around. Everyone started talking about what the game.
So here's my thing. I want to
Yeah.
talk about the article, but I also want to talk about how ridiculous people's reaction to the article is.
Sure.
Because I just don't understand the kind of reactions that it got.
Here's where I came.
Vicious uproar.
My uproar was not vicious. I did not tweet. I did not yell. I did not scream. I saw it, and then I saw people discuss. I saw the headline. I saw people reacting to it that the ads lied to you and da da da. And I was like, oh wow, that sucks. Because I haven't started it yet. I haven't jumped in. I don't know what the story is going to be. And the story I have set up is Locke versus Chief. That's the thing. And so for this to be like it all lied to you, I'm like, oh, that's not really the story. Okay, so they're not going to be friends immediately. I don't know the spoiler of what happened or where they're going or whatever, but the ads got me hyped based on the story. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So then knowing that that's not really what it was, like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. But I mean, here's my thing. That's not Mitch's fault.
No. I'm not mad at Mitch.
Okay, well, then, but what I'm saying is a lot of people are.
Oh, people are mad about it.
And that's the other thing is like people are acting like IGN is like biased against Xbox, and this whole thing is like a shitting on Halo thing.
Trust us. When we left, they became decidedly unbiased against Xbox.
But it's like shitting on like the marketing of it, and that's different. I think that's entirely different, and it's a very valid thing to talk about. And in terms of the spoilers, spoiling what's not in the game is spoiling the game, but if you're being lied to, this stuff should be presented to you, right?
Okay, well, read the story. What's the
right.
because I didn't click on it. I mean, I started Halo last night, and now I'm into it, but I still haven't gotten to where the story falls apart in 180s.
Gotcha.
And it's not
so
that.
it's a long article. I'm gonna just read excerpts here.
I'm gonna put my
so
armor on
there's
while I do it.
spoilers here, but they're spoiling just what's not in the game. So if you don't want to hear that,
no touching.
Prepare yourself.
No touching.
So, most of the cinematic scenes you've seen for Halo tell a very different story than the game itself. The debut trailer for Halo for Xbox One, shown in E3 2013, has little resemblance to anything that happens in Halo 5 Guardians. The lonely robed traveler wandering through a desert wasteland never shows up anywhere, even thematically. In fact, your squad is with you the entire way. This is a co-op campaign through and through. Nothing about this scene seems to matter to the main plot, other than the existence of the Winged Guardian itself. So,
okay,
there's that.
So far, so good.
Then, the most baffling piece of marketing is the commercial 2-pack showing two separate perspectives of the same scene. You may remember Master Chief looking down on a dying Locke, contrasting with an alternate scene that reverses the roles and shows a Locke chastising a wounded John 117. Both scenes end with the implied execution in a ravaged city, whose last standing structure is a monument to Master Chief. Above, the infinity is smoldering in the sky, possibly singing towards the planet's surface. None of this happens in Halo 5. Not even close. And then they go through this whole two sides of the story and how like just a lot of that stuff is just not what it seems.
Okay. See, and then I think it's just a bad headline. Because when I saw the headline, I assumed what we had seen leading up to this was not the story. I was assuming we were getting a Batman Origins style twist. Where I thought, spoilers for Batman Arkham Origins. I thought, you're about to go play it when you get home, Kevin. I thought we were going through and we're getting this Black Mask story, right? But really quick into that game, it's like, haha, no, it's all a Joker story. You're like, oh my God, this is awesome. That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought that I'm waiting right now playing it based on the headline, waiting for the other shoe to drop of Locke gets killed and it's just Chief. Or now they're immediately, like we all know they're going to become friends and have to fight a greater force or whatever. I thought that was going to happen immediately or something like that.
Uh-huh.
That's not bad. Now I understand what you're talking about. I would say the E3 20 whatever
2013
marketing lied to you.
Uh-huh.
They don't have to say all the marketing lied to you. But anyways.
But I mean, but that's the thing though, is I do feel like this is a important conversation to have where marketing tools and stuff, should it lie to you and to get you hyped and kind of just be something where it's like this stuff isn't in the game or movie or whatever?
Yeah.
Or are they promising you something? Are they promising that what you're buying has this thing in it?
Sure.
You know? And it's like when you watch a movie trailers, and Mitch even makes this point, nowadays give away the whole movie.
Sure.
So it's like, would you rather that or would you rather them kind of tease you with the stuff that's just not in the game?
Right.
You know? And some things are just like, in terms of thematic stuff, it makes sense where I didn't really expect the scenes of them killing each other to be in that game. How would that happen?
I didn't expect the scene of Chief walking alone in the desert in his poncho to be in the game.
But see, that to me is different. The biggest change there is the fact that that's so old, and technically that wasn't Halo 5.
Yeah.
That was Halo back when it was just Halo.
Yeah.
So things change, and I get that. But that sets a tone for the game. That sets me being like, oh, this is different for Halo. This is something that
He never wears a poncho.
But he's never like alone like that. Never.
And why is he wearing armor and then a poncho?
Yeah. Like, what's going on?
It was a disguise.
Doesn't make any sense.
But I do think that interested me in it as somebody that loves Halo, but isn't necessarily gonna play every single Halo game that comes out.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, that looks cool. And then now it's just Halo, you know?
Yeah.
And what you're talking about, the Arkham Knight stuff, like where it is just a huge twist or whatever, like that's cool. But is this that?
No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying. Is I thought based on the headline, I thought it was, and I was thinking about how mad I would be that if Arkham Origins story was spoiled that way. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now we're just talking about straight up the early marketing isn't what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
Does that matter? I don't think so. You've had how many? I'm having the exact opposite, where we watched the launch trailer, and I was like, "This is getting me hyped." And then last night we're doing the thing where we're falling through the sky, and the Muse song should be playing, but it isn't. And I'm like, "All right, yeah, I remember this. All right, cool. Let's go shoot some shit." You know what I mean? Like I mean, games change all the time and evolve. I wouldn't, like you're saying, don't hold the sand and the poncho thing against them. Then to the next one, I don't even remember the execution switcheroo kind of thing.
But I mean, so that's the thing that's I think a lot of people do. You know,
Sure.
like that, especially the ones that are invested in this and like invested in the Halo lore and stuff and all the hunt the truth, like the whole hunter thing, the whole like you're hunting this thing. It's like that's not really the point of this game, and it's like that's crazy because that's all they've said: hunt the truth, hunt the fucking truth, and we're not hunting things. Like,
are we hunting? I mean, like this is just the problem, I guess, is that for the first time in forever, I'm playing a game where I'm totally the guy we always talk about who doesn't read IGN or watch this. I'm like, oh, Halo, I want to play this with my girlfriend. I pick it up off the Walmart shelf and I come and play it. So like Hunt the Truth, like if you were to ask me what's Hunt the Truth mean, I'd be like, oh, well, you know, Locke's hunting Chief and they're trying to get to the bottom of what this message he just got from this person was. And if that's not it, great. But that's what, I mean, to me, the Hunt the Truth campaign still makes sense because I don't know. I didn't listen to the podcast. I haven't listened to Car Talk. I haven't listened to Hunt the Truth podcast. I haven't listened to these other things. You know what I mean? Or like really watch these old school trailers. Mm-hmm. And now to your point of should games / movies or just games, I guess, show things that aren't in the game. I wish more did.
Me too.
Uncharted 3 was totally spoiled by a goddamn Subway commercial. Like, fuck that. You know what I mean? I would love to not know anything going into it. Because, you know, I knew I was going to play Halo with Christine, right? Like, I know I'm going to play Uncharted. I don't think they need to be deceptive. Don't show me something like you're fighting 80-story tall enemies, right? And then you get in the game and you're always just fighting grunts or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, if it's one for one. But then again, I'm still speaking to something I didn't see and don't understand. But movies do it all the time where they show you, not so much anymore, I guess, but in the old days, I remember Varsity Blues in particular, that you watch the trailer for Varsity Blues, and there's a bunch of scenes in that
lines and things that get
aren't
cut.
in the movie at all.
Movies get edited and
Right.
things like that happen.
But that's the problem when you're talking about a
Games
game.
get changed
Yeah.
over time and all that. And like that stuff totally makes sense. And a lot of times it's just fun little Easter eggy things where you're like, oh, like that's a different take of a line that they said or whatever. But like with something like this, I think that this is it's a bigger deal in the sense that like it's everything they've hyped up about the story is different.
Really?
And yeah, I mean it's definitely from what I've played and what I've seen and like from reading this, I'm like, yeah, that's right. Now, having said all of that, I don't necessarily think this is such a bad thing because I agree with you. Like I think as long as it's the thematic thing that needs to make sense though, and the fact of like him being a lone warrior thing and then him always having a team, that's an issue. You know, like I think that if the original thing had shown more of that team element stuff, then this wouldn't be such a problem of a lie. You know, it'd be more of like you just got more. The marketing stuff was just more for you to enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's like the Transformers movies. When they first announced them and stuff, all the trailers weren't even the movies at all. That was the point, though. It was just like getting people hyped for what ended up, disappointing everyone. But like, at least the marketing was marketing. It was just get hyped for this thing. And
how long ago was the dual execution Lone Wolf trailer thing?
Less than a year.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like it's not that long ago.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. Which again, like the wandering thing, like that was long enough ago that
fuck it. Yeah, whatever.
Like okay,
just some CG thing in the desert. Got it.
But anyways, I just think that the idea of the lies in marketing. We were talking a couple days ago about if Zelda wasn't on Wii U and just was on NX. I think this is a very similar thing. I feel like you were promising someone something.
Yeah. By
tantalizing them with it. Like, there's no difference to me between watching these trailers and Nintendo showing Zelda and saying, hey, it's going to be on Wii U.
My question is, what about what's been the case in developer interviews and stuff? Have they made it sound like he was going to be alone at any point?
No, I mean, and that's the thing is like then, throughout the development of the game, when we do see things, he was always with the team and stuff.
Because I feel like that's the course I've been on, where I've had him on Up at Noon, I've talked to him, they've been on our live shows or whatever, I forget which ones, and like I see the game and I always heard about it's Locke's team versus Chief's team and this is what's happening and we're trying to figure all this out, we're hunting them or whatever. So like I don't know, I feel like we're hung up on this. Read more. What else is what's so mad? I feel like we're hung up on one trailer where there's an execution scene.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing.
Well, big deal.
I mean, I don't want to read some of those because it does get a little bit into
it gets into
more spoilery stuff.
Okay.
But there's just some things based on like characterization of Locke and Chief and how they interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a delicate thing because I don't think there was a right answer. Like I'm contradicting myself many times in this because I'm saying like they're lying and that's bad, but also I think it's a good thing. I think it just needs to be a little bit it's the thematic thing. Going back to that.
I mean, like I guess this would be the question of like if video game journalism and criticism and everything else was where it is right now and Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, would it be that would we put up an article that said Metal Gear Solid 2's ad campaign lied to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is kind of
and does that matter? Because that was an awesome twist, right? Like that's the whole thing.
But I mean, that's another problem is like another part of my topic is the reaction to this thing where like people are super upset that he's like doing this and saying this. It's like, I think, and they're like, why didn't you wait to do this? I'm like, I think that it needs to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what's the point of waiting for it? Like, don't read it if you don't want to read it and just stay away from it. But I think this is interesting. I think Mitch did something really cool of going back and finding all these things. And I don't think that, like, even though lied to you sounds like a very negative thing, like, I don't think he was just saying it's different,
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's interesting to look back and see how the things have changed over time.
Right.
So,
but lying comes with the connotation that they were trying to deceive you, right? Like, I agree with you. If it was like, this is how it changed over time, then that's an innocuous headline that you'd read and be like, okay, cool. That's interesting. The game changed and developed and evolved, right?
Yeah.
But when you're trying to come up with a punchy headline that attracts people, you
exactly.
know what I mean? Like,
that's really what it is. And also, in the headline says opinion. It starts off with opinion, which changes it even more. Which just like he was disappointed. He did feel lied to.
Okay, so Mitch, those are his. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, cool. That's
that's
totally fair thing.
Totally valid. No, I understand it. It's one of those again. I wonder if the script was flipped and there was a new Infamous game coming out, and I have been living and breathing it into every fucking trailer, and I got the game, and it was all of a sudden that no, Cole is back, but he's got a team of conduits you have to be with at all times. Would I be like, oh, like that's?
Yeah, I think that is a very valid thing. I mean, let's even with Metal Gear, like. That's like thinking back on how they would have handled that. And like if Metal Gear 2 had come out in this day and age, there would be a million articles about that.
Sure.
Talking about how, this is like, I think much angrier.
Yeah.
Like, this is fucking bullshit and whatever.
Who's this whiny little bitch?
But I don't know. What do you think, Colin?
I don't have an opinion on this.
Okay.
I mean, it's like whatever.
Is it okay for marketing to do this? To show trailers that then don't have things in it?
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing that seems to be lost on a lot of people is my assumption is that they've already talked about the next Halo game. So my assumption is that this saga will continue. I'm not going to play Halo if I have no interest in playing it at all. But my assumption is that 343 is going to continue this series in perpetuity for a very long time, and that this story is not done yet. So they might be setting the cadence. It could be like the three arc, having arcs in your story that, setting it up and then, having a crescendo and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there could just be an intent for the next game to continue the story or make it a little more salient for people. But deceptive marketing is shitty, but I'm not sure that Microsoft's intent was to deceive anyone either. So I think it's a valid point to make, but I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I don't really care. It wouldn't be the first time or the last time that a video game trailer. It's like Fallout 4 is being largely advertised with Pip-Boy videos and live action trailers that are not going to have anything to do with the game.
Doesn't look like that.
Like it's not that uncommon. So, and I'm excited that Fallout is being advertised in a way that doesn't show you anything in the game and doesn't, and it might tease things in the game. Oh, you have a dog, and and you're shooting a super mutant and all that kind of stuff. But like, the context is for you to make. So, it doesn't have to be out of context stuff. Doesn't have to necessarily be negative, in my opinion. But it does. I do agree that it seems like people really don't like the campaign, from what I've been reading in terms of the story. I've read that complaint quite a bit. People like multiplayer, and the game's getting great scores, so it can't be that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an 80, between an 85 and a 90. I think on Metacritic. I think it'll be just fine. Yeah.
Last topic of the day, as always, brought to you by the Kind of Funny forums. Go to kindoffunny.com/forums. Leave a topic for the show, and we'll read it, just like we're doing right now with C.R. Stern. Hey, Tim, Colin, and Greg. Long time, first time. Colin frequently talks about how his favorite NES series, Mega Man, all feature perfect gameplay. Which games have near perfect gameplay in your eyes? Are there modern games that approach NES pinnacle gameplay in your eyes as well? The only thing that jumps in my mind of perfect is Mario, the 2D Marios.
Sure.
Specifically the world previous.
Anything that in the current world that approaches that?
Like,
you're talking about anything current games or any modern-y games?
Well, just going back to any games at all that have
Okay.
perfect gameplay, I say Mario 1, Mario 3, Mario World.
Mario World, yeah.
I mean, 2's great too, but like I think that 1, 3, and World stand on their own. Besides that, I don't know if there is anything that I'm like, this feels utterly perfect to me.
Yeah.
Especially when you get more modern. I definitely can't think of any off the top of my head.
The name that jumped to mind, because it's recent and it's a complicated question, right? Is anything ever perfect kind of thing? But like a near perfect gameplay loop of Metal Gear, Phantom Pain. The fact that, like, don't get me wrong, like you can get frustrated and not know what you're doing, but the way all the systems work together, like we always talk about, right? And the GMP, and I want to build this and I want to play that. You know what I mean? The fact of like, what does perfect gameplay mean? I don't know, but it's the perfect gameplay in the way that I want to keep playing it over and over and over again. There's always something to do. There's always something.
Well, that's a loop, I think.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm driving. Yeah, that's what a gameplay loop.
In terms of gameplay, I mean, it's games that have rules that are predictable, and I think very deeply about gameplay, like gameplay, playing the game, the act of playing the game, which I think is lost on a lot of people today, and is forgiven by a lot of people. It's the reason why I think Call of Duty is so good, because it's good gameplay. Like the game plays very, very well. Series that come to mind, Mario I think is a perfect example. I think even Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 have near perfect gameplay, even though the games are stiff and heavy. That is the idea. So they're unforgiving. The rules are consistent, and you either learn how to play it or you don't. And some people don't like the more clumsy feel of it compared to, say, Mega Man, which is fast. But I really love the stiff is used as a bad word, and it should, I think, usually be used in that way when you're talking about gameplay. But the heaviness of the game, it feels like a Castlevania game. That's the way Castlevania feels. And then it really changed quite a bit with a game like Symphony of the Night, which had fast gameplay but still fluid and perfect gameplay. Ninja Gaiden 1, 2, and 3 are up there with Mega Man to me in terms of gameplay. Those games are fast. They don't plot at all, jumping on walls and just running. Like think about it, people out there played the original Ninja Gaiden, like that first stage when you're running to the bar. It's just perfect. Like it's you're just running, slice, jump. Like it's, I don't know. Those games are really, really special in that regard. Modern games don't really nail gameplay the way they used to. I mean, that's just the nature of the way games are made now. So
what's funny about what you're saying is all those games are 2D platformers.
Mm-hmm.
And like what I was talking about as well is 2D platformers. Like is every other genre, and like once you get to 3D, is it just too complicated to have that perfect?
No, because I talked about Call of Duty, which I think is just in terms of shooters, like unrivaled in the way it plays. And so that's the bar for, whether it can get any better than that. I don't know. I don't make shooters, but that it can be done in other genres and other modes and other ways of looking at games. But I think that it works in 2D so well because there's little else to rely on in those games to satiate the gamer, which is why I think those games are so special and why that genre is so special. And side scrollers will never disappear because they just really do benefit the person that wants gameplay above all else. And gameplay is absolutely king. So that's why, and I've beaten the horse dead, and why I'm so excited about Matterfall and Alien Nation from Housemarque is because they make perfect gameplay games. Like they do twin stick shooters, and they are games you play and master and get better at. So a game like Resogun or Dead Nation even, these are, Dead Nation's not only a game that is great to play, but also has what Greg was talking about, which was a gameplay loop, which Resogun also has, which is why Housemarque's one of the great developers, because they really understand gameplay, and that is a lost art. There's a lot of excuses made for a lot of games I like, that, man, this game's pretty, the story's great, look at these characters, look at the environments, but the gameplay. That's what I always talk about with Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed would be a 10. And I'm not talking about the new one. I've not played Syndicate. I've not played Black Flag or any of these games in the last 3 years. But I'm talking about my experience with Assassin's Creed 2 and 3 specifically. If Assassin's Creed 3 played the way it looked, that would be maybe one of the best games of all time. You know what I mean? Like but it just doesn't. It's like, man, this is a really great environment. Look at these environments. These people look so real, and the story's interesting, and the voice acting, it's so immersive. And then you move around, and it's like, oh. They didn't nail what matters most, which is playing the fucking game. And it's not to say every game needs to be. We were talking about 3/4 Home, which is a game. You might not even call it a game, and I don't. Maybe you shouldn't call it a video game. I don't know. It's a choose your own adventure game. You make choices. Experience. Yeah. So there's no gameplay in it at all, but it's great. And Gone Home, I really loved as well. And that's like what people call a walking simulator, just like everybody's gone to the Rapture or the Vanishing of Ethan Carter. So it doesn't mean that games have to have gameplay. It means that gameplay is usually the nugget of what makes a game worthwhile. And so we go back to games that had no excuses because that's all they had.
Yeah,
they didn't
Tetris.
have.
I want to give a shout out to Tetris.
Dude, you know what game that came to mind first straight up after that you mentioned Mega Man was Arkanoid. Where I was like, Arkanoid's fucking perfect. Arkanoid is in my mind a 10. Like, it's just a brick breaking game, but it's a really good one. It's not the first brick breaking game. It's just really good at what it does, and it does this one thing, and it's just addictive as fuck. Holy shit, that game's addictive. So the very simple things like River Raid is one of my favorite Atari games. That game is very simple, but the gameplay's fun. Kung Fu on NES is just 5 levels over and over again, but it's awesome. So, and it's not because, wow, look at Mr. X is such a compelling fucking enemy, or there's like 4 different enemy types in the game. It's not anything. It's just like it's fun to play, and they didn't have excuses back then. They didn't have anything else to hide. What made the game fun. Look at The Order. We talk about that game a lot. The Order is gorgeous. I don't know if there's like any game on PS4, or very few games on PS4 that look better than that game, but it doesn't. It's just a generic cover-based third-person shooter at the end of the day. And that's what turned people off to it. It wasn't the way the game looked or the way the game sounded or the story. It was the way the game played. So, man, gameplay is... We must lose sight of the fact that gameplay is just very, very important. And can modern games nail it? Yes. And do they? Yeah. But, fuck, look at the games we love, like Fallout 3.
VATS is there because the game sucks at gameplay.
Yeah, like VATS is an excuse for not being
really
able to...
poor first-person shooter controls.
Yeah. And we let it go because everything else around it's so good. But is the gameplay good in Fallout 3? Like...
Gameplay mechanics are really good. Yeah. The RPG mechanics are awesome. The story.
Well, I was gonna say the RPG, like the tangential things are good. I don't think the mechanics are good at all. And that's when I'm
talking mechanics, I'm talking about for RPG mechanics. I'm talking about leveling up.
Yeah,
using
all that's
skill
good.
Points.
The
that
loop,
stuff. Yeah,
is great. But like, and Fallout 3 in New Vegas, I adore those games. But man, they're like not good. Like if you just played them in a vacuum, if you're just like if you made Fallout 3, if you removed all of the elements, all of the story, and made a corridor in front of them, like Killzone, for instance, and you're like, play.
No.
It would be awful. It'd be fucking awful. So that's why I'm excited about Fallout 4, because I want to see how it feels.
Right, and they talk about bringing it in and all this stuff. Like, ooh, okay.
Like, can you imagine? That's why Far Cry is so great.
Don't get me excited. Right now, I want to just keep thinking it's just a fancier version of Fallout 3. So when I get it and it's not, I can be fucking amazed.
That's why I'm telling you, man. That's why Far Cry is so great, and that's why I think Dying Light's great too. Is because it's like, wow, it's this open world. We have expectations that everything suffers in an open world, right? Like, just design wise, everything suffers. Like the gameplay is almost the last thing that matters in these games. Look at Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry, especially Far Cry, I think 3 and Far Cry 4 came out, and we're just like, well, this is a shooter that is better than 90% of the shooters on the market, and this is an open world game that's better than 90% of the open world games on the market, and it was a perfect fusion. So much like maybe even Crysis 1 was another example of that, like a competent shooter in an open world. I really like the original Crysis for that same reason. So I don't know, we can go on. I love talking about gameplay, man.
Yeah.
Like I love talking about mechanics and oof. Go play Resogun.
Jason A asks, hey guys, do you think there'll ever be a successful PC console in the vein of the Steam box? On the surface, it seems like a great idea, the 30-year library and the power of PC mixed with the affordability and big screen of a console, but in practice, it just hasn't worked out yet. Thanks, guys. Your content is 100% brick.
No, there won't be. And for my money, I think Steambox was the chance.
Mm-hmm.
It was the chance for Valve to say, hey, everybody, we have something that's amazing here. PC gaming is amazing. Steam is amazing. Everything's cheaper. Everything's cooler here. Here is the Steambox. You can get this. You can play 90% of the games. And if you get to something else, we will sell cards that it will tell you what you need and where to get it and how to get it. This is the answer. And instead they said, here's a controller. Everyone make a Steam box.
And here's computers in a different format.
And it was a million Steam boxes, and it's the same cumbersome, confusing experience that I don't want to invest time in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Someone needs to get it together, and they were the ones. They're the biggest. They're the ones everybody believes in. They could easily come out. And I know it's that they don't want it. They don't want to get in the console. There's no reason for them to get into the manufacturing of hardware. They can just sit there and keep making Steam and make money hand over fist and never have to make Half-Life Episode 3. But if they would have done it, they were the people to do it and show it and make everyone believe in it, and they didn't. They left it open, and that's why nobody has a Steam box. Nobody cares.
Is it going to happen now or in the near future? No. Is it going to happen at some point? It's a foregone conclusion it's going to happen. In my opinion. So I disagree with Greg in certainly saying like no at all. I think it's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's totally. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. I'm mad at you, but I didn't mean to hit you.
It's okay.
I think it's inevitable that they do it, and that's not and they just whoever. I agree that Steam and Valve really blew it with Steambox. I think they absolutely did, but I don't think they look at it like that. I just don't think they care.
Exactly. No. It's them failing us.
Someone is going to come along, and they are going to care, because to the point, like there is a wealth of games spanning since the late 70s, really, that can be played on the same sort of, I don't want to say architecture because that's not necessarily true, but you can play like the way we play a game like Oregon Trail is the way we play a game like Dota 2, right? It's a computer and a monitor and a mouse or a keyboard or something like that. So in other words, this whole legacy, this lineage of PC gaming is certainly going to be unified in some sort of way in some sort of box at some point in the future. I can't imagine that that's not going to happen.
Future I see is that, no one will ever get it together. No one will ever be big enough. And so what'll happen is, when consoles do die out or whatever, and there is no more set-top boxes and whatever, however the fuck it all comes down is, it'll be that you have to suck it up and get a PC and figure it out. Or whatever the new machine is or TV is or dongle you plug in the, you know what I mean? Like, we always talk about one day there not being a console future or whatever. I don't think it'll be, though, that we're going to one purpose, one group that has it figured out in this one box.
And I will say to the no console future again, like
not anytime soon.
Nope. I don't even know. I don't even know anymore if this is necessarily going to be the last generation of consoles.
No way. Not a chance in hell. This is the last generation of consoles. We were all so wrong about that 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago now.
Final question of the day. Amaze Hobbs says, in the past, you guys have talked about YouTube trying to take down Twitch using its new YouTube gaming service. With the introduction of YouTube Red, which will require content creators to pay a fee of $9.99 to keep their videos public. How do you guys think this will affect smaller channels that provide video game related content? There's a lot of things that are wrong with what you just said.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
So
we don't pay anything.
But I think this is like an important question to talk about because there's a lot of people not understanding what this service is and the difference between YouTube Gaming and YouTube Red and YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube Gaming is just a different way to look at YouTube. And everything we talked about pre it coming out about it versus Twitch, they're not competitors in that way. It's just YouTube is a competitor to Twitch. YouTube Gaming is just a different lens to put over YouTube
exactly.
to look at channels in a more video game focused way. Like if you go to gaming.kindafunny.com, it'll work. Same thing for gaming.kindafunnygames. Same thing for gaming.epicmealtime.com. Like doesn't matter what the YouTube channel is. It just puts the
skins in.
It just makes it look video gamey.
Yeah.
And has different like chat windows and stuff and makes it seem more like people, how they consume video game content. So I think people get really confused about that. In addition to that, one day they will have features Twitch has like paying for subscriptions and paying for emotes or being able to use all that stuff. Cool. Until that day comes, it's not even worth talking about because we don't know what they're going to do. This YouTube Red thing, there's so much people that are confused about, so you're going to need to pay to be able to make money off your videos? No. Just if you don't, the only way your videos are private is if you don't accept the new terms of service. And that's just because YouTube's like, this is what we're doing. Deal with it or get the fuck off.
Yeah.
And we'll see how this all shakes out. Like, I don't want to put my foot down and say I believe this is going to be good for people. But right now, I think that it is. I think that overall, this is going to benefit content creators. And I think content creators are getting a little upset about it right now. But we're now getting paid off watch time instead of views, which should benefit the smaller channels even more. Because if you have a smaller audience that's really dedicated and watches your entire video.
You put up a 30-minute thing about how to get this trophy in this game and only 300 people watch it. Well, those 300 views would have been nothing before. But the fact that we're all coming and staying until the 30-minute mark when we get the trophy.
Yeah. And we don't know what that payment plan looks like. And we don't know whatever.
It's $1 million a minute.
But that's the thing is I don't want to say that it's better because I don't know, but I do think that there's potential for it to be better for smaller channels, specifically for channels like us who don't have 1 million subscribers, but have, a lot of really hardcore motherfuckers that watch these podcasts that we do. Like, that's going to be great for us.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And again, that's only the people that are paying for YouTube Red. We'll see how much this even gets adopted.
Yeah.
If only 100 people do this, that means it only affects 100 people. The rest of people are getting ads like they always have.
Yep.
So we'll see how that all goes. You guys have any thoughts on that?
You nailed it.
Cool. That topic brought to you by Loot Crate. Would you classify yourself as a geek, gamer, or pop culture nerd? Then Loot Crate is the subscription box for you. Loot Crate's a subscription box service with $40 worth of geek, gamer, pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, comics, etc. delivered to your mailbox every month. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/KFgames and enter code KFgames to save $3 on any new subscription. Every month there's a different theme. They're all a whole bunch of stuff that you love. This month, they're bringing you a fight for the ages. Suit up, choose your allies, and enter the arena for combat. They're ready to stand their ground this month with exclusive items from Blizzard, Fallout 4, Capcom, sponsor-worthy loot from the Hunger Games, as well as a few more items that will help their winners emerge victorious. Whether you're risking your life in battle or taking no prisoners in the wasteland, our loot will be at your side to keep things interesting. Basically, Loot Crate's like a friend that knows exactly what you want, gives you presents every month, and it's a beautiful thing. Did we mention this shipped to over 13 different countries? We didn't, but now we did. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when that cutoff happens, that's it. It's over, Jack.
Yeah.
So go to lootcrate.com/KFgames and enter code KFgames to save $3 on your new subscription today. Thank you guys for joining me for this ridiculous trip of a Gamescast that was way more complicated than I think any people will ever know based on production.
It wasn't that bad. And I want to thank you both for spending your weekend with me this weekend doing Extra Life. Kindafunny.com/extra life. We're playing video games for 24 hours, Saturday, November 7th. So no matter when you're hearing this, it's soon. Come watch, donate, help a good cause.
We got some good shit planned. It's going to be fun. Definitely do that. Thank you so much for everything. Leave some comments below letting us know what you think about all this stuff. Until next time, I love you.